Öncelikle herkese günaydın. Umarım beni rahat ve temiz bir şekilde duyabiliyorsunuzdur. EIC Accelerator, başarılı bir başvuru hazırlamak temalı KOBİ'ler için proje yazma eğitim etkinliğimize geldiğiniz için, vakit ayırdığınız için en içten dileklerimizle proje ekibi adına hoş geldiniz demek istiyorum. İsmim Kemal Onur Güngör. Ankara'daki Turkey'in Horizon proje ekibinde görev almaktayım. Şu anda içinde bulunduğumuz etkinlik toplamda 15 eğitimden oluşan 15 serilik eğitim serisinin 10.'su olma özelliği taşımaktadır. Bu etkinlik serilerimizin bazılarınızın aşina olduğu üzere 6 tanesini stage olarak yani yüz yüze olarak yapma fırsatımız oldu. Ancak bildiğiniz üzere koronavirüs önlemleri dolayısıyla etkinliklerimizin geri kalan kısmını online olarak sürdürmekteyiz. Sizleri vakit ayırıp tekrardan geldiğiniz için memnuniyet duyduğumuzu sizlere karşı iletmek istiyorum. Etkinliğin gerçekleştiği projenin sorumlu kuruluşlarından biraz bahsetmek gerekirse, etkinlik rekabetçi sektörler programı altında desteklenen Gazete'nin Sanayi ve Teknoloji Bakanlığı yürütücüsü oldu. Sahibinin TÜBİTAK olduğu Horizon Phase 2 Turkey Horizon 2020 projesi gerçekleşmektedir. Avrupa İnovasyon Konseyi'nin hızlandırıcı programı, Avrupa Birliği'nin Ufuk Avrupa programının önemli bir unsuru olmaya devam edeceğini sizlerle daha önceki seminerleri ve proje yazma eğitimi kamplarında konuşmuştuk, bildirmiştik. Aynı zamanda bazı değişikliklerin yeni programda da olduğunu yine sizlere belirtmiştik. Bu eğitim serilerinde de daha önce katılanların aşina olduğu üzere bu farklılıklara mutlaka değiniyor olacağız. Asıl amacımız ise etkinlikten sonra sizlerin bu başvuru programı kapsamında daha rahat hissetmesini sağlamak ve sizlere faydalı bir 3 saat yaşatmak amacımız olacaktır. Katılanların ve daha sonradan izleyenlerin, YouTube kanalımızda izleyenlerin görebileceği üzere 2 Temmuz'daki web seminerimiz Ufuk Avrupa programındaki KOBİ'ler için bazı fırsatları özetlemişti. Bugünkü etkinlikte ise ana minvalde hızlandırıcı başvuru sürecinin ilk aşamasına odaklanacağız. Bu süreci sizlerle tamamlayabilmek, ikinci aşamaya daha yakından bakmak için ise Ağustos sonu ya da Eylül ayı başında devam eden nitelikte farklı eğitimler gerçekleştireceğiz. Bu seriye ait web seminerleri ve eğitim modelini gelecekteki cut-off tarihlerinden önce uygun zamanda tekrarlayacağımızın da altını çizelim. Bu sebeple projeye dair ve programa dair ilgili proje ve TÜBİTAK web sitelerini daha sonra sizlerle chat kısmından paylaşacağımız web sitelerini sıklıkla takip etmenizi önermekteyiz. Bugünkü etkinlikten biraz da katılımcı özelinde bahsetmek gerekirse 400'e yakın bir başvuru aldık. Açıkçası yazın bu döneminde tatil sezonu olmasına rağmen çok yüksek bir ilgiyle karşıya kaldık. Bunun için sizlere çok teşekkür etmek istiyoruz. Genelde beklentimizde 400 başvuru aldığımızda 150'nin üzerinde KOBİ'nin bizlerle olmasına yönelik. Şu anda da gördüğüm kadarıyla 100'ü geçmiş durumdayız. Teşekkür ediyoruz tekrar için. Etkinlikte yer alan uzmanlarımızı sizlere tanıtmak istiyorum. Bazılarınız yine uzmanlarımıza aşinalar ama ilk defa katılanlar için projemizin İngiltere'den kilit uzmanı, SME uzmanı, KOBİ uzmanı Philip Solden bizlerle beraberler. Yine Yunanistan'dan projemizin tematik uzmanlarından Grigoris Hatchikostas bizlerle beraber. Yine değerli uzmanımız SME Instrument uzmanı Sayın Serkan Bolat bizlerle bugün beraberler. Kendilerine diğer uzmanlarımıza ek olarak Q&A butonundan Türkçe sorularınızı da iletebilirseniz sizlere yardımcı oluyor olacaklardır. Aynı zamanda projemizin yararlanıcısı ve sahibi TÜBİTAK'ı temsilen Sayın Merve Diyar, Avrupa Yenilik Konseyi Ulusal İrtibat Noktası temsilcisi de bizlerle beraber bulunacaklardır. Daha önce belirttiğim gibi etkinliğin asıl amacı yeni programa başvurma konusunda hepinizin daha iyi bilgilendirileceğini ve bunun sonucunda daha güçlü bir başvuru yapacağınızı bizim açımızdan ümit etmek. Umuyoruz ki etkinlik sonunda sizler de bu bizim ana amacımıza uygun bir şekilde hissedeceksinizdir. Bu proje kapsamında gerçekleşen tüm SME etkinliklerinde olduğu gibi bu etkinliğin kaydı da projemizin YouTube hesabında yayınlanıyor olacaktır. Bu hesap bilgilerini de yine sizlerle etkinlik süresince chat kısmından paylaşıyor olacağız. Sizlere tekrardan faydalı bir etkinlik diliyorum. Sözü TÜBİTAK'tan Sayın Merve Polat Hanım'a devrediyorum. Merve Hanım söz sizindir.
Çok teşekkür ederim Kemal Bey. Öncelikle sunumumu sizlerle paylaşmak istiyorum. Sanırım uygun bir şekilde görebiliyoruz. Let me continue my presentation in English because the event is going to be in English. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our EIC Accelerator training event. My name is Merve Polat, and I'm the national contact point for the European Innovation Council on the New Horizon Europe program. And we are working together with my colleagues, Tarık Şahin and Merve Diyar. Before starting my presentation, I would like to remind you that we will be here with you throughout the event. You can send your questions from Q&A section, either in English or Turkish. We will be pleased to help your questions to be answered. I would like to begin my presentation by giving brief information about the framework programs. It is the R&D funding program of European Union and started in 1984. And if you look at the timeline here, we can see that we are in the 9th framework program now, and it is called Horizon Europe and started in the beginning of this year. And Turkey involved in the framework programs in 2004 during the 6th framework program. And since that day, framework programs has been coordinated by TÜBİTAK through a dedicated national coordination office. There are some major changes on the pillars of the new framework program compared to the previous one. And if you focus on EIC, we can also see some major changes from Horizon 2020 to Horizon Europe. Actually, EIC was a pilot program in the last 3 years, but we can see that it is in its full form with Horizon Europe. Before that, we were under the industrial leadership pillar, named as Innovation in SMEs and Access to Risk Finance. Moreover, we also had the former FET, Future and Emerging Technologies program. Now in Horizon Europe, all of these 3 programs came together to form the EIC component of the Innovative Europe pillar. Here you can see how EIC under Horizon Europe program is structured. There are 3 major funding programs: Pathfinder, Transition, and Accelerator. And for all of these programs, there are both open funding and strategic challenges options. I do not want to go into the details of these programs because this is an introduction about who we are and what we do. However, I recommend you to take a look at our previous events about these programs on Turkey in Horizon 2020 website. In addition to these funding programs, there are also EIC prizes and EIC community and business acceleration services as other components of the EIC Horizon Europe program. I would also like to share some information about who we are. We are the members of National Coordination Office of Horizon Europe. As you can see here, we have a dedicated website for this purpose, which is ufuk2020.tr. On the main page on the right side, you can see COVID Destekler section. And from this section, you can find all details about us. However, I would like to remind you that our new website for Horizon Europe will be launched very soon. So we strongly recommend you to register our website and choose the newsletter options that fit you. Then this information will be automatically transferred to the new Horizon Europe website. And in this way, you will keep receiving all the news and updates in this way. If you go into COVID Destekler section, you will see more detailed information about our team, and you can find some more specific news and updates from here. On the right side, you can find our contact details. So again, we would like you to register our website and contact us anytime you want about your questions. You can also find us and our contact details from Who is Who section, Kim Kimdir, which is found on the upper right corner of the main page. You can find the details of other national contact points from this section too. In order to encourage the participation of Turkish partners in framework programs, we provide some supports and awards as the National Coordination Office. These support and award programs are dedicated to support the SMEs, academicians, and institutions. Increasing the quality of the proposals submitted to the framework programs is another purpose of our National Coordination Office. In addition to this, we also want to increase the leadership and the number of Turkish coordinators in the framework programs in this way. As I mentioned, we also have award programs in order to encourage successful people to continue their works. Finally, I would also like to briefly mention about the Subcourse. If you go into the related link from this QR code, using this QR code, you will see that there are some other opportunities in addition to the Horizon Europe programs. You can submit your proposals to these calls as well if you believe that they fit into your research areas. I think they are good starting points to be prepared for the Horizon Europe EIC calls. Here you can see our social media account details. Ufuk Avrupa TR is our official Twitter account, and we also have a dedicated LinkedIn account for Horizon Europe. All of the news and updates are also being shared through our social media accounts, so we strongly recommend you to follow us. Thank you for listening to my short presentation. I hope that I have encouraged you to take a fresh look at what TÜBİTAK has to offer SMEs, especially on EIC Accelerator support as part of our Horizon Europe coverage. I shall be here with the project team during the event to respond to your questions. I would now like to hand over to Philip and Grigoris to take us through the first stage application process and provide you with an insight into some of the aspects that will help to strengthen your bids for support. Philip, over to you.
Okay, thank you very much indeed, Merve. A huge amount of help and advice there available through TÜBİTAK. I think it's always surprising to see the depth that you go into with the support to SMEs. Just switching screens and then we shall continue. Okay, thank you. Merhaba, hoş geldiniz, welcome. Delighted to see so many people joining us this morning. And I think this shows the rising interest in Turkey in Horizon Europe and what it has to offer. So hopefully this morning we can persuade you that you should make an application. It is for you and there's benefit to be had. First of all, apologies to those who've listened into previous events of ours, because you must perhaps by now be tired of seeing me online. I think we're all a little tired of Zoom, but it's the only mechanism available to us at the moment. My background's in manufacturing, in SMEs, in large and small companies, lots of sectors, automotive, glass making, and so on. But I've worked with the European Commission for over 30 years, and I've worked in Turkey almost continuously now for the past 10 years. So I know Turkey very well, I know businesses very well, and I must have visited by now about 150 SMEs to talk to them about the Horizon programs. So this is our team. The ones boxed in red are with us today. We have Grigoris, who, well, both Grigoris and Serkan, who have a lot of background in European Commission bids, both in writing bids and in evaluating. So their input will be most useful. The rest of the team, you see our team leader there, Alexander, who deals with the intermediary side of things, as well as looking after us all. Odysseus, who deals with legal and financial. And we have Adamantios, who runs many of our training events. And we're supported, of course, by a big team, including people on the PR side to help us to promote. So our approach to helping in the SME side of things, which I'm responsible for, is to run a sequence of 4 events, a general webinar followed by project writing training on the first application, a second one on the full application, which will probably be late August, and then a final one on project writing camp to help those companies who've written proposals or are well into writing proposals to sharpen them up. All this ahead of the cutoff dates. You see there, the next cutoff date is the 6th of October. It may change, but at the moment scheduled for 6th of October. And then provisionally next year, there'll be 2 cutoffs in June and October. Most importantly, you can apply at the first stage at any time. Those cutoff dates apply only to the full proposal. But you can see as the proposals have fixed dates, then you should time your application, your first application, so that there is time to have it evaluated and to write a proposal ahead of the cutoff. So those are the 4 webinar, 2 project writing events, and then a project writing camp. We're hoping the project writing camp will be a physical event, but it depends, of course, on the situation with the COVID pandemic. So we're here today, project writing training event. And the objectives for today, just briefly, to provide obviously information on our project, on Horizon Europe in general and Accelerator, and then to go into detail on the first stage short application, the process, the content, and of course, new to Horizon Europe is the need for a pitch deck and a video to go with your first application. So we're covering those 2. So the brief introduction we're going to see in a second, then the overview of Horizon Europe relevant to smaller businesses. We'll look at the application process, talk about some of the key aspects of a winning content in a proposal bid. I'm going to cover the do's and don'ts of bidding, which we've gathered from many SMEs that we've seen in Turkey and many proposals they've made. Then the pitch deck, and finally producing the 3-minute video. So that's what we'll be covering the next 2.5 hours or so. And of course, we'll finish with a Q&A session. But at any time during this broadcast, please send us your questions. We have something like 120 years of experience between us on European Commission and how it works and how the funding happens and so forth. Ask any question you like. It may seem silly to you, but if it's a question you have, it's a question somebody else will want to know as well. It can be in Turkish or English. So please, the buttons at the bottom of the screen, use the Q&A to ask us anything you like, and we'll try and answer. So a quick look then at our Turkey in Horizon 2020 project and what it contains. This is our logo, but of course it's wrong now. It should be Turkey in Horizon Europe. For contractual reasons, we still call the project Turkey in Horizon 2020, but we're fully into Horizon Europe support as with today, and this will continue, we hope, well into next year. So think of us as Turkey in Horizon Europe. This is the main logo for Horizon Europe. Grigoris is going to tell us more of the content briefly in a second, but I think the logo is a good summary of what it contains. It was once all about science and technology and R&D, but now it's got a huge coverage. It's covering green issues, it's covering gender equality, it's covering climate change, of course, and of course with the COVID pandemic, lots of issues there on health and so forth. So a big variety, including all sorts of social, economic, environmental, as well as science and technology issues. The more that your bid can include some of these topics, even peripherally, the better chance you have of being accepted for funding. So do read up on Horizon Europe, do listen to what Grigoris has got to say, and you'll be better for it. Now, we have a long history of these events, both physical and online, and we've covered a huge amount of subjects. They're all available on the website that you see at the bottom. And look at some of those subjects. EC terminology, we had a couple of hours there just analyzing the different terminology they use in the bidding process. We had a lot of questions about technology readiness levels, and these are seen today as business readiness levels as well. So have a look at that. We've talked about business planning, an essential part of the bid. We've talked about the financial issues, which can seem quite complicated, and dealing with intellectual property. A lot of companies are concerned that if they are involved, they have to share intellectual property. How can it be protected? there's an ongoing series of training events on these issues. But as I say, there's a lot of background too on our website. Please take a look. So briefly, four main areas of project activity: the training events, of which today, of course, is one. We have focus groups. As I said, we have intellectual property events. There will be events on how to access risk finance. This is from the private sector. There's also how to work with the European Commission in terms of how you pitch to them, the pitching process, how you can best present your idea. Webinars, which we've had many of course, because of COVID. And I mentioned project writing camps earlier. Also networking, we've had major brokerage events. None of further ones are planned at the moment. And international study visits are still restricted, of course, because of COVID problems. There will be award ceremonies. And of course, we should be having information days on Horizon Europe when we are able to hold physical events. The SME support, my area, there's consultancy, project writing, training, pitching I've mentioned. And we've held an investment readiness event, which is summarized on our website. You can see a recording there. And finally, there are tools to help both you and us to make it all happen. The website Merve mentioned, there is a help desk. If you have any issues, you can contact us and ask about them. And we have training guides in there. So a lot of help there. It's all for free. And it's good expertise. I must say this, of course, I'm one of the people providing it, but you know, it's based on solid experience is what I should say. In terms of the objectives for Turkey, this sometimes comes up, you know, why is Turkey involved? It's actually there to do many things. It's not just about funding, it's helping to strengthen the national capacity in science, technology and innovation by linking to other researchers, other projects, other people in the research infrastructure, and increasing engagement between the two. And also, of course, the Commission provides a huge range of activities to support businesses, and these are reflected in our project, which of course I've just covered. So why should you participate? I mean, financial support is the obvious attraction, a combination of grants and investment funding. And this, of course, is the basis of the Accelerator bid. But there's also support from mentoring, from people who can help you to manage your business. And indeed, if you go to a second stage application for Accelerator, the European Commission provides 3 days of paid mentoring support as well. You get the benefit of the commercial experience then of those mentors and the consultants working with you. As a company, okay, the finance is good, but it helps you to take a more strategic view of your business and to build your commercial strength. It asks questions about your business, the future, what sort of strategy you have, how you see the business developing. Remember, the Commission are investors in your business through Accelerator, and these are questions that any investor would be asking and that you as business managers should be asking to take your business forward. If you do get engaged, it helps to generate more confidence from Turkish investors. There is a seal of excellence arrangement. So even if you don't achieve the funding level, you could get a seal of excellence, and that shows the Commission thought your idea was very innovative and perhaps worth investing in more than if you didn't have that award. It gives an endorsement to your product, of course, that it's attracted funding, but it also amplifies the national project investment that come from the national government, often through TÜBİTAK. So it's amplifying the investment they're making. So lots of benefits are there, other than the obvious financial ones. So that's the project. That's how we can help. A quick summary. Over to Grigoris now to take a quick look at Horizon Europe, because there's more in it for SMEs than simply Accelerator. Over to you, Grigoris.
Thank you very much, Philip. I'm just, okay, perfect. Now, hopefully I can upload my presentation.
I see, despite my appeal, we only have one question so far. We must do better, guys.
Maybe you would like to respond to this one, Philip, while my presentation is being uploaded.
Okay. Dear Philip. Green communication. We can get that information to you, yes, by all means. Everything now has a coating of green paint on it. So it's about communicating what's happening on green issues. And it's also being environmentally friendly in the way that it's communicated. So rather than newspaper, use electronics and so forth. But we'll get a fulsome answer to you. Okay.
Sorry, I'm still struggling with sharing my screen, guys. I need to apologize for this.
No worries. It always happens. After years of presenting on technology, it's always the technology that goes wrong. It's coming up.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, beautiful. Finally. Thank you so much.
Just telling us that you're screen sharing, but there's nothing on screen at the moment.
It's struggling on my end also to spool.
Here we are. Is this it? Yeah. So you need to go to, that's it. We're on. We have a slide positioning according to EC expectations.
No, this is not the right one.
That's
no. This is not the one that I was aiming to upload. I need to apologize for that. We're really in trouble here with this. I'm facing these problems in the past few days due to high temperatures.
What, yours or the weather?
The temperature is not mine, it's the weather's. I'm fine. I'm all healthy and...
I'm sure the guys bear with us. They're all well aware of the issues with online events.
Hopefully this time we will get it right. No, it's unbelievable. Sorry for that.
That's all right.
Maybe we can just remind our audience that Q&A box isn't always there. You need to make it appear by moving your cursor down to your screen so that you will see Q&A box and be able to ask questions.
Okay, they're now reminded. Perhaps whilst we're waiting, Serkan, what do you find in the attitude of SMEs towards Horizon? Is it about cash, or do they see the greater value?
Well, it's usually about cash, grant money first.
Yeah.
I mean, we already have a question here from Salih Turkay. He says, I can answer this question, Liv, actually.
Yes, please.
Trying to type. He says, I would like to ask if I get benefit from Horizon or not when I found a new company, SME, with good idea in environmental field. So there are many calls within Horizon Europe. There are many funding schemes and support programs under Horizon Europe. And most of them are interested in environmental ideas and innovations, green innovations. And particularly our EIC Accelerator program supports EU Green Deal related proposals. Mm-hmm. We have a specific challenge called targeting EU green innovations. So they can actually apply for EIC Accelerator environment challenge call for 2.5 million euros of grant and 50 million euros of investment.
The problem I see is that yes, they accept startups, but many of the questions are based on existing company performance. So, it's an interesting tension there between what's available in principle and what happens in practice. But we can discuss that later. I see Grigoris has his presentation there.
I managed finally.
Sorry.
Apologies again, and thank you very much to my
You're-
colleagues for supporting me during this gap.
You're a technical wizard.
Thank you very much. The problem is that I'm expecting that we will face it again in the change, but now I will be better prepared. So, welcome everyone. I'm Grigoris Hadjikostas. Probably many of you who have followed previous ones know me by now. I'm involved in the project in supporting trainings. As far as my experience, I have been a foot soldier of European projects in the whole of my professional life. It's actually more than 17 years now. Very active in preparing proposals, very active in running projects, in managing consortia, but also active in training and coaching and mentoring various organizations with experience, of course, here in Turkey, but also in other countries like Greece, Serbia, Poland, Bulgaria, Tunisia, Lithuania, etc. So, before talking too much about myself, what we're going to cover very briefly today as an intro to the EIC Accelerator and how to write proposals is what is Horizon Europe? What is Horizon Europe in terms of what is new in Horizon Europe, but also what is Horizon Europe in terms of the parts which are interesting for SMEs. We will provide you with the full presentation for your reference. However, and in order to maintain the timeline of the 15 minutes that is calculated for this presentation, more or less at least, I will try to skip the parts that are not so much interesting about SMEs, and I will try to draw your attention on two things. One is the political context, which we will discuss later on as well when we will be discussing about the winning content. But basically, I want to introduce you to what Europe expects from Horizon Europe, hence from your EIC Accelerator proposal in the broader picture. But I would also like to draw the opportunity here and point to you that there are other actions within Horizon Europe which might be equally interesting for startups and SMEs. And I would like to draw your attention there because our project, as Philip said earlier, covers a broad range of activities, including this part. So first of all, let's try to understand a little bit quickly why Horizon Europe. Why do we need as Europe a research program? And not any research program. With 95.5 billion euros, we are talking about one of the largest research and innovation investment programs in the world. If you ask me a few months later, I will tell you it is definitely the largest. But now I hear there have been some announcement by Biden administration that they're thinking also to launch a very big multi-annual and very ambitious program in the United States. So possibly Horizon Europe will lose its branding. But whatever the case is, what remains as a bottom line is that there is, in the next 7 years, there is 95.5, almost 100 billion euros available for research and innovation. And why we as taxpayers invest that money? Because we have a vision for Europe, a vision for a sustainable, fair, and prosperous future for people on the planet, based on our European values, which include how can we tackle the climate change? 35% of the budget of Horizon Europe theoretically goes towards this target. How can we achieve the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations that cover all parts of human activity towards a fair and inclusive society? But also, how can we boost the Europe's competitiveness and growth in a global competitive landscape? These are major aspects of the vision we have for Europe and the vision that our research and innovation would like to serve. However, in Europe, we have some interesting key figures related to research and innovation. Although we are only 7% of the world's population, Europe has the 20% of global research and development production and almost 1/3 of all high-quality scientific publications. However, when it comes to companies investing in research and development, when it comes to the private sector, you will see that Europe is lagging behind significantly, comparing not only to the United States, but to the East Asia counterparts. So, what we want to achieve through Horizon Europe is a big investment of the taxpayers, a set of benefits from Europe. I will not go one by one. I will just try to tackle a few major ones. First of all, to win the talent war. we have a talent war currently globally. We are looking for brains, we are looking for smart people, other countries are doing the same. So what we want in Europe is we want to use this program in order to retain and attract the best talents, retain the ones that are already here and attract others either that are coming from abroad, from all over the world, or people who want to return back. Then we want to create, of course, market opportunities. We want to have better business, better growth options, better possibilities. But also, the Horizon Europe is a way to align all the research potential of European continent into major societal challenges, major global challenges. In order to do that, you need critical mass in numbers, complementarities, critical mass in infrastructure, excellence. All these are the topics that we want to achieve through the implementation of this huge public investment program in research and development. So, technically speaking, what we want to do is to ensure that strategic priorities like the recovery from the pandemic, the green and the digital transition, or other challenges are tackled. The people are empowered. The industrial competitiveness and innovation performance are taken into account. And at the same time, we want to promote values just like gender balance, just like collaboration, just like inclusiveness across the society through the research program. And then, what impact do we expect? And keep in mind that this somehow needs to link also to the impact of your proposal. Very simple. Let's look at the numbers. Let's look at the mathematics first. Horizon Europe wants to achieve that every euro invested today in research and innovation at EU level generates 11 euros of gross domestic product in the next 25 years. So you understand we want to achieve a times 11 return on investment in research and development over the next 25 years. Then, over 35%, more than 1/3 of the budget of Horizon Europe needs to contribute to climate objectives. We understand that climate change and climate adaptation are major challenges that we need to tackle as a society. Therefore, it's absolutely necessary to invest, to put our money where our mouth is, to invest seriously into tackling climate objectives. And then, it's about jobs, it's about growth, it's about prosperity. 300,000 jobs by 2040, out of which we calculate that 40% of these jobs will be highly skilled jobs. All this shows you how you should tackle the benefits of your own Horizon Europe project. How much you should talk about creating new jobs to the extent of your capacity. How much you should highlight the green benefits, the potential for positive, climate positive actions that are coming from your company. And last but not least, your ability to generate income, to generate profits, to initiate private investments, and generally speaking, to kickstart a virtuous circle in the local economy through your startup. So some quick breakthroughs. European Innovation Council as a one-stop shop is one of them. Later on, Philip will explain how these breakthroughs are somehow affecting your activities and how the system has changed with respect to accepting applications. Then the missions, very, very important. They are closer with the missions. We're working closer to the citizens. Then better, more rational approach when it comes to European partnerships, which are complementary funding schemes. International collaboration, even with non-EU countries, is strengthened. Open science policy. Open science is related to the fact that taxpayers' money, when invested in scientific work, needs to somehow be accessible to all the citizens and to the startups and to the SMEs. Trying to decrease the research and innovation gap in Europe between the East and the West, between the advanced countries and the less advanced countries. Also try to improve synergies with other EU programs and policies, and finally make the new program a little bit simpler, with less administrative burden, with less bureaucracy than the previous one. These are a set of novelties. And now we are going to look together quickly the structure of the program. And the main element of the structure of Horizon Europe is the so-called pillars. So what do we see here? We see basically 3 pillars in the heart of Horizon Europe, and then you have other, I would call them auxiliary actions, most important of which is the widening that is very interesting for Turkey, and we just finished a very successful event as a project with this respect, but it's not interesting for you directly. So let's look at the pillars per se. Pillar 1, excellent science. Again, not so interesting for you. This is science for the sake of science. This is about frontier research. This is about training and mobility schemes, and this is about research infrastructure. Going to Pillar 2, this might be very interesting for you because it's startups and SMEs are particularly welcome in these industrial challenges and global challenges of European competitiveness. And there we have some verticals. One is grouping together digital industry and space. Another one refers to civil security. Another one, which is very important these days, tackles the major issues related to health. Then we go to my favorite topic, which is food, bioeconomy, agriculture, environment, etc. From there, we move to culture, creativity, and inclusive societies. And last but not least, certainly climate, energy, and mobility, also extremely interesting for Turkey. For all these verticals and the little things that you can imagine between them, there are specific work programs in Pillar 2, the so-called clusters. So you have clusters from 1 to 6. And in these clusters, it's very interesting to look because there will be lots of actions interesting for SMEs. For the rest of this presentation, whenever you see this little magnifying glass on the top of the computer, these are the slides that I'm trying to draw your attention that there is interesting stuff for SMEs. And of course, the Pillar 3, where the EIC Accelerator program comes from, which is about exactly stimulating market-creating breakthroughs and ecosystems. European Innovation Ecosystems is also a family of programs. We had a very interesting event as well on this same topic. And this is something that you as startups and SMEs should certainly be following. So this is why you have this icon here. Then I will skip the widening part. It's interesting for Turkey, but not interesting directly for startups and SMEs as it aims to scientific centers of excellence. InvestEU for Research and Innovation is a tool that is aiming to leverage an additional 200 billion of investments. Yes, you got the number right, 200 billion of additional investments of the private sector to mobilize them and to match them with the financing from European taxpayers. So practically we're talking about a hybrid model here. The missions are something which is very interesting. I will not get too much into details, but I will try to highlight the fact that missions are a portfolio of actions aiming to achieve a bold and inspirational goal that affects European citizens' life at a great extent. Let's look at some examples that we already have, and of course I'm drawing your attention as startups and SMEs, particularly if your area of work falls within these activities. Adaptation to climate change, including societal transformation, cancer, soil health and food, climate neutral and smart cities, healthy oceans, seas, coastal and inland waters. We understand here that the missions are pretty much very important. These are things that really affect the majority of European citizens. And based on these missions now, although there is no fixed budget in all of the clusters, you can expect to find calls which are related to the missions. And a general estimation is that a maximum of the 10% of Pillar 2 will be dedicated to specific calls for implementing the missions. And of course, the performance of this scheme will be re-evaluated as Commission always does. So there will be selected projects launched, but then from this selected, sorry, this is a mistake. Yes, there will be selected projects launched, and based on these selected projects, what will happen is that there will be then a portfolio management approach on behalf of European Commission on how these projects are going to be managed, how these projects are going to develop synergies between them, but also together with other parts of Europe. There is a set of mission boards, and these mission boards have already assigned chairs. These are well-known experts and, generally speaking, accepted experts on behalf of European Commission. You can see here the names of the people. And then let's go a little bit to some simple things like who is eligible for Horizon Europe? Can a company participate? Under which conditions? So normally, in order for a proposal, first of all, to be admissible, meaning to be accepted, to be considered, it must be submitted electronically, it must be complete, readable, accessible, printable, and include a clear plan for the exploitation and dissemination of results. The page limit is predefined according to different types of actions. Very quickly, we will say that 45 pages is RIA and innovation action. CSA is 30 pages. We will see what those means. And for EIC Pathfinder, for example, the limit was 17 pages. When it comes to eligibility, with the exception of some special calls like the EIC Accelerator, normally you need minimum 3 partners, and most of the times more than 3 partners. The average European project, collaborative European project, has 7 to 15 partners. That's something that is, generally speaking, acceptable. And of course, I will not get bored in raising your attention on the gender equality plan, on the gender balance and everything. I will refer to it later on when we will discuss in details about the concrete aspects of gender equality in an EIC Accelerator proposal. Now, which is eligible? Of course, member states, but also the associated countries like Turkey that pay, let's say, their subscription fee, that are participating as with same rights and same obligations in Horizon Europe exactly as member states. And also some other cases here, some other countries that are accepted by the work program based on agreements of European Commission. For the UK, because it's very often asked, the UK, Philip, participates as an associated country to Horizon Europe with exactly the same way as Turkey. This means that UK entities can take part in all of the calls for Horizon Europe, with the only exception of the AQT instrument of the EIC fund, meaning that this is not available to them. But for all the rest, we will be very happy to still have our UK partners on board for the projects. The funding rates can be from 100%, which is obviously the maximum for research and innovation actions. For innovation actions, including the ones that we're talking about, the EIC Accelerator, we're normally thinking of 70%, with exception of non-for-profit legal entities. And then you have other rates depending on the type of the program. And then let's move to the types of actions very quickly before closing. Obviously, you have that some types of actions are direct actions. These are the ones that the European Commission is implementing with its own joint research center, JRC, which is quite known and famous. What we're talking about today is the indirect actions. These are research and innovation activities for which European Commission gives money to beneficiaries to implement those on European taxpayers' behalf. And we have a full set of actions. Let's see them quickly one by one and point out to the ones that are really interesting for startups and SMEs. First of all, the research and innovation. This is about producing new knowledge or exploring the feasibility of new technologies, products, etc. This includes basic and applied research, some technology development, and some validation on a small-scale prototype level. This is, of course, interesting for SMEs, particularly if it fits with their own interest with respect to development and research. Then innovation actions. This is a little bit more mature projects where we have plans and arrangements of large-scale demonstration, of piloting, of validation, of market replication. This is one step before the product is 100% launched to the market. Needless to say that this is super interesting for SMEs. And the same goes for innovation and market deployment. This is similar to the EIC Accelerator. It means that there is one part which is about innovation, and this part is a grant-supported part. And then you have some other parts of the project which are related to scaling up the companies. This cannot be supported by the grant, but it can be in a blended finance, meaning some type of private finance, either equity or loan. this is also a possibility. ERC Frontier Research is obviously not for you, it's for individual researchers who are chasing this pathway. Then, training and mobility. Although it mostly aims to research institutes, SMEs and startups can participate and can benefit from exchange programs, can benefit from exchange of know-how for building the networks, etc., etc. Then you have the program co-fund. This is not interesting for you. This is mostly for national funding agencies, how they can co-design programs. Same goes for public procurement, special programs for public sector organizations. Coordination and support actions. This is something that you can, of course, participate as an SME. This is about contributing towards objective of the program, but without doing research, but organizing researchers, providing dissemination and awareness raising campaigns, networking activities, services, dialogues, mutual learning exercises, and so on and so forth. Prizes, of course, this can also be interesting for you. One of the companies that I'm collaborating with has achieved a prize now for their activities. And going back to the prizes, there are two types of prizes, the inducement prizes and the recognition prizes. So the inducement prizes are prizes that normally are given prior to your achievements because you have come up with some great idea, while the recognition prizes are given after your achievement, after you have done some outstanding work and the Commission would like to somehow compensate or honor you for that. These are my parts, and do we have any questions, Philip, that we could answer?
I think there's quite a wide range. I think the question really is for Serkan, there's a huge amount of advice, information, support there. In general, Serkan, do you find that there's a good awareness of all of this, or do companies focus on very specific things?
No, I don't think Turkish applicants, potential SME applicants, are aware of all the funding opportunities or tender opportunities under Horizon Europe. Horizon Europe is very different than Horizon 2020. There are different pillars, opportunities, priorities. I would suggest everybody go to Funding and Tenders portal and use the search box to learn more about other opportunities. EIC Accelerator is for SMEs and natural persons that will build companies. But there are many different SME opportunities, funding support types, European or non-European associations that they can learn from Funding and Tenders portal. So just go to Funding and Tender portals and treat that portal like Google. Just type SME, innovation, Green Deal, and look at all those listed funding opportunities.
Okay, good advice. Okay, well, thank you, Grigoris. We'll now get into more depth on the accelerator, which is the sort of main focus of the event. And we'll have a look at what happens in making an application. Okay, so that's the broad picture. There's a lot of information there. It's worth investigating when you think of collaborative research as well. A lot of Turkish companies can work with other organizations on collaborative research. And, you know, people tend to close their minds to this, but it's very important to look at all options. It's all there for you to make use of, so take a closer look. Okay, we've seen the three pillars, and Grigoris has done an excellent presentation on that. This is where we are, the European Innovation Council. I think it's a measure of the importance attached to innovation in SMEs by the Commission and the member states, that this has risen. I mean, I go back as far as Framework Programme 5, and to some extent, SMEs were seen as peripheral, on the edge. Now they're very much the focus. And of course, it's fairly obvious. Countries, I mean, for example, Turkey, 97% of companies are SMEs, and they account for well over half of the jobs and gross domestic product. But of course, those SMEs can grow into major corporations. And again, Turkey has some excellent examples of that. So the importance of SMEs cannot be underestimated. And the Commission and member states accept that. Not only do they accept the importance of SMEs, but they now very much emphasize the importance of commercializing clever ideas, research, development, and getting the commercial benefit back into the economies of those countries, so that then there is greater benefit, of course, from taxation, jobs, and social and other benefits. So two mainstream directions that will continue, I think, for many years to come. So the European Innovation Council, again, a measure of the importance that the Commission has set up a separate entity to handle these things. Three main areas of support: Pathfinder, transition activities, and Accelerator. Pathfinder really for bigger projects, for groups of people to develop radically new technologies. So, you know, world-changing technologies they're looking for there. The transition activities are really for transforming the research results from earlier projects into commercial activities. And of course, Accelerator, the main focus, that's the actual deployment of innovation to market, this commercialization. And from now on, this is what I will focus on. So the Accelerator for Innovative Companies, this is the Commission's wording: from deep tech research to visionary innovation and to scale up to successful commercialization. So it's taking it from, if you like, proven research through the innovative development and into commercialization. But in actual fact, they're interested from the prototype stage onwards, the TRL level 6, which we hear so much about, through to full commercialization at TRL 9. Is it for you? Yes, if you're a single startup, you can apply. It's mainly SMEs who apply. This is up to 250 employees. There's also a limit of 50 million euro turnover because of the highly automated factories that perhaps have less than 250 employees, but well over 50 million turnover. And also some help is available for what they term small mid-cap, so up to 500 employees, but they're only, the only help available is the private sector funding rather than the grant support that smaller companies get. So the first question to yourself is, do I fit with those descriptions? And I'm sure most of you fit with the middle one, the SME. Again, this is Commission wording, and I've highlighted the very important words that you have to look at when you're making a bid. So they're looking at helping to scale up, building a business, developing it, increasing throughput, selling commercial aspects and so forth. High impact innovation, of course, helps to do that. If you have an innovation which is going to make a high impact, then scale up should be more or less automatic. Of course, they want the potential to create new markets or to disrupt existing ones. So overall, helping to scale up high impact innovations with the potential to create new markets or disrupt existing ones. That's key to what they prefer to fund, what they're looking to fund. Also building on scientific discovery and technological breakthroughs, which they call deep tech. And deep tech investment can be over 5 to 7 years to go from a scientific discovery all the way through to the commercial aspect. They see that some companies need funding over a longer time frame, but if you're seeking that longer time frame funding, you must be quite certain that the potential is there to win it, because the natural tendency will be to fund shorter term projects that give a faster result. So you're competing with projects that could show a faster return, and therefore you have to show a higher potential. They term this patient capital. Investment for 5 to 7 years is seen as patient capital, yet more EC terminology. Two types of call. The open call, you can apply at any time. for accelerator support, and innovations in any field of technology. It's completely open. Again, they're looking for innovations that cut across different scientific, technical, sectoral, and application fields, representing a novel combination of these things. In doing so, of course, you've got a greater chance of commercial success and a greater chance of scaling up if you're using all of those fields in a product. The challenge-driven calls, Grigoris mentioned briefly, these will be on specific dates rather than completely open calls, based on priorities as they come along. So green priorities and digital priorities were there before COVID. Of course, COVID's added, it was there before Healthy Society, but has really placed the emphasis on health in society and disease prevention. The strategic relevance for 2021 cutoffs are strategic digital and health technologies. As an English speaker, sometimes it's complicated. Strategic digital and health technologies, and the Green Deal innovations. The Commission sprayed green paint across all of their activities a few years back, and everything must have a bearing on a Green Deal. And indeed, you look at Europe at the moment with fires and floods and high temperatures, you know, it's fairly obvious that climate change is now significantly affecting Europe and the world. So these are high priority issues. What funding's available? If you're simply looking for a grant, that is the basic form. If you're looking for a grant, you must be showing, first of all, how you can overcome a particular risk that is preventing your project from developing commercially. So it may be a particular test, or it may be a particular electronic solution that needs to be finalized. It's a risk that's stopping you going forward. And if you're doing a more complicated bid, more of those in a second, it's always important to show the risk as overcoming that risk as one of the work packages. If you're going to go for grant only, remember the focus is on the commercial success of your project. So you must evidence the fact that you have some sort of backing that will scale up your project to a commercial level, to take it up to TRL 9. Now that might be private sector. It might be that you have backing on the basis that if you get this particular thing resolved, we'll support it with venture capital funding. But they're looking for that backup. Fairly obvious. Why should we give you a grant if you have no means of then taking what you develop into a commercial future? Many of these requirements are straightforward commercial requirements, questions that perhaps a backer or a bank may ask. The difference is the Commission is seeking to fund the risk element. They're looking for the risk that if they overcome with funding will actually take you forward. You can ask for a grant first, so you can link it to investment, venture capital, but to have a grant first before you then carry on with backing through private sector or the Commission. Grant and investment. Now, this is a fairly straightforward one. Most companies want just the grant. They don't want the complexities of finance, but we must remind ourselves this is not a research fund. It is a commercial fund to take research and development forward to a commercial success. So the grant, as I mentioned, could be used to overcome a particular risk. And then investment comes from the Commission themselves have an investment fund, the EIC fund, but they're also linked to many private sector investors. Why should the Commission invest? Simply to get you over the bridge between the initial grant funding and the commercial sector interest. They've said that they will, as soon as possible, withdraw from that funding and pass it on to the private sector. So it's bridging that gap between grant and private sector interest. And finally, we have the, investment only. I mentioned this for the mid-caps. If you're simply looking to find investors, you have a product that's ready on the rails, it's been proven as a prototype, but you have difficulty finding investment, they can help to either help with direct investment from the Commission and or from the private sector. So those are the 4 different types. Most people are attracted to grant only because it's simpler, but it's more difficult to get because you have to show that you have backup in the form of investment. Grant and investment is probably the one that would take you through to a greater success. How much grant? The grant component, a maximum of 2.5 million euros, so it's worth having. Remembering what Grigoris said, that it's a 70% grant, so you have to find the rest, but that can be provided in kind through work that you do or equipment you provide and so forth. So it's not as difficult as it seems. They try to get the completion within 24 months. There's a bit of leeway on that, but 24 months is the target. But as I mentioned earlier, the mid-caps, the up to 500, are not eligible for grant. The investment component can be a huge amount, up to 15 million. The norm is around 2 to 3 million, but it can be higher. It can be directly as an investment, or they can take out quasi-equity by taking a number of shares in the company. And I mentioned the patient capital of principle of 7 to 10 years, which is for the deep tech type project. So a lot of flexibility there, but you must be clear on what it is you're seeking and justifying why you're seeking it. Because it's a commercial activity and they take a commercial view. It's not all about technology. It's certainly not a research grant. So there's a 5-stage process for Accelerator. And today we're talking about the first application. We shall have another event towards the end of August, beginning of September, about the full proposal. So if you fit with all of those requirements, disruptive, deep tech with potential to scale up, you can submit a short application. So let's look at that process. First of all, you have to respond to a set of questions through a new setup that the Commission have, the EIC Artificial Intelligence-based platform. More of that in a second. You also have to submit a 10-slide pitch deck, which Grigoris will tell us about a little later. And you have to submit a 3-minute video, which I shall conclude our event with later this morning. So between them, there's quite a bit of work to do. Why have they done this? It's so that they're not simply looking at, if you like, a paper application. It's electronic, but it's not simply a written application. They're trying to get a feel for the project from the pitch as to what you're intending to do, what the need is, what the idea, how it will work. And of course, the video also supports that. So it's getting more in-depth knowledge of you, your team, and what you're trying to do. It's not simply filling a form in, and you have to get your mind around that. Let's just have a quick look then there. There are 4 elements here. The first one's a discovery. So you have to go through this process. It's there so that you can identify if there's any other funding source that might be relevant to your project. Obviously, you fill in details of the project, your idea, the need and so forth. And it helps to identify other sources. So that might be within the Commission, it might be at national level, it could be other international funding, it may be particular support for Turkey. So it will identify or help you identify relevant funding sources. The next stage, which again you have to go through, is a diagnostic stage. You feed in information on your project and what you're doing, and we'll go through those questions in a second. And the artificial intelligence then gives you the various options as to whether you should go forward, whether you should do more work on particular elements and so forth. So it's a useful tool to get an early assessment really of your project and its chances. Now, on the basis of that diagnostic, you may choose not to go forward, or you may need to do further work. But if you want to apply, there's nothing stopping you. You can still apply. It isn't a barrier to application, but bearing in mind that the aspects that they've identified may ultimately block your application. So it's worth taking note of what the diagnostic says. So then you're into the application, and then eventually it goes through the evaluation process, all of which we'll cover now. So first of all, the artificial intelligence-based platform, AI-based platform, is accessible through this website. The most important one there is the EC Funding and Tenders portal, which tells you all of the funding and the open tenders within Commission funding. And within Horizon Europe, Pillar 3, you have the EIC Accelerator open call for the 3 levels I mentioned. And you can then go into the platform with that website. Remember, it's worth looking at their work program for 2021, because that gives you details of the focus and the policy behind the programs that they're funding. So the discovery part, which I covered, you enter your project description and various keywords that cover your project, and the AI system helps to identify the other sources, as I mentioned, whether they be grants, investment, funding, loans, and then there is a set of questions in diagnostic which asks if you did actually look for alternative funds. So it's a check back on the discovery part of the process. The diagnostic is mandatory before you start your submission. As I say, if it comes up with a sort of negative view, you can still apply, so it doesn't prevent you from applying. It provides the assessment of your concept, your idea, against a large number of existing concepts and ideas in scientific publications, patents that have been issued, and of course, European projects. I've come across companies here who are investing heavily in research, but a simple view of the Europa website has shown that there are identical projects already in process. Obviously, the Commission won't fund something which has already been covered through other projects. So it's a useful tool to use. There's then a set of questions about the problem you want to solve. Now, the Commission are looking for a process which discusses the need for your idea or project, the idea you have, the solution, and finally, whether you're able to implement that project to make it happen. So this is basically the same set of questions, the problem you're wanting to solve. In other words, what's the need? Where's the market? Who will buy it? And so forth. The idea you have, the features that will match the need, and the market it's going to be targeted to. And then finally, they will be asking about your team and implementation. So if you complete that and you decide to go for the short application, it transfers all of that information to it. You're not filling it in twice. So here are the diagnostic questions. What solution do you have in mind? What's the purpose of your project? An acronym, they always want an acronym, a short name for the project. It helps to keep track of it. And a description of the solution. You can see they're very tight descriptions there. So 1,000 characters for the solution means you have to be very concise in your description of it. Why? This is the need part. So they're slightly reversed from what I said, but why is the need part? What problem are you solving? What idea is it? What is the function, the use, examples of how it's needed, and finally the additional features, the 1 to 3 main deliverables against your project objectives. So you have a project on a particular topic. What are the main 3 deliverables you see coming from that project? Is it a product? Does it take you further down the line of research? Is it a new form of service? The TRL levels we've mentioned, and we have covered in events in the past, technology readiness level, but often linked to business readiness level too. They're looking for TRL. A lot of people try and convince the Commission that they are further ahead than they're claiming, or in fact, they're further behind than they're claiming, so that they can win grant funding. But remember, this is going to be reviewed by experts, going to be evaluated, and they pretty soon identify if you're at a different TRL level. They also, of course, want to know what TRL level you intend to achieve at the end of the project. So if you're looking for a grant, it might be that it takes you to 7 or 8, but well into the process of getting to TRL level 9. But if it's a grant and investment, they'd be looking to see you achieving TRL 9 and over a particular time period. So some quite searching questions there on diagnostic. If you then go on to the who part, this is the market part. Who are the customers? And it's not a matter of simply, you know, if you developed an automotive device, you don't list Ford, General Motors, Bentley, and various others. Targeted is the word. So who have you looked at? Which customers have you talked to? Is there a future for it? Will they buy it? And they ask what sector activity, because sometimes companies come up with projects outside of their sector, which is or can be quite dangerous. Because, of course, it's going beyond their sphere of knowledge in many cases. The team, the accent there is on the winning team. They're looking for a combination of skills in a team. It's not all about technology. In fact, it's less about technology than it is about commercial and financial inputs. So it's important to get that balance. We'll be talking about this a little bit more later on the do's and don'ts section. The targeted market. So we've got targeted customers, targeted market. Again, I see companies say, well, we're going to sell this to Europe. Europe's 50 countries, 27 member states, all of them with different stages of development, different competition, many of them with different languages. So, you know, you can't simply say, I'm going to sell to Europe, sell to China, sell to the USA. It's a lot more complicated than that. And within that, which customers? How will you sell it? Will you sell it through agents? Will you sell it directly? And so forth. Time to market, again, that's just to get an idea of how long the investment is going to be before there is a return of some sort. And of course, the issues that Gregorius and I have both mentioned, the green issues, societal issues, any health issues, climate, and so forth, as well as the benefits in form of jobs, taxation, and so on. So questions that look simple but need a lot of thought if you're to be successful. So when they're completed, the system will provide you with a diagnostic result in terms of you know, whether there's anything else around that looks like it, an assessment of the team members, and the best matching funding opportunity, whether that's a grant and equity, and so on. You can still submit your proposal at that point, and it will be evaluated. So to do that, you obviously need the proposal information. We've mentioned the acronym, but the title, an abstract about the project, short description of it. Keywords very important, because those keywords are used to identify your evaluators. So get them right in terms of where it sits, how you would like it to be evaluated on the basis of a sector, a technology, and so forth. You have to be registered with the EC. I perhaps should have mentioned this to begin with. It's a very simple process on the Funding and Tenders portal to register the company, to get a registration number. And they also like to know the highest ranking person in the company, because of course, if it goes through to grant funding, that will be the person that they hold responsible for the progress of the project. and what happens to the funding. Pitch deck, 10 slides, that'll be covered later, as will the video. And there are a series of additional questions covering these three topics to get even more into the project that you're seeking funding for. So ideation, what's the solution? Are there existing ones? What's new about yours? Why do you think it'll be successful? Why is the market for it ready now? The development, what's the risk of failure? Remember, they're wanting to fund the risk in the grant aspect of the project, so it's not all negative. Do you need to cooperate? Because you need, of course, to spread the funding to others, and the Commission are quite controlling in the way that subcontractors are used, so that has to be detailed in a full application. Do you have the right team? Why can't you do it without EC funding? If it's such a clever idea, why can't you attract commercial funding? This is one of these issues that, is the glass half empty or half full? If you say you can't attract funding, it can appear to be an idea that doesn't have much future. If you say you can attract funding, they can say, well, why do you need us to help it then? So you have to get the balance right. The marketing, as I said, is a commercial thing. So a lot of accent on the targeted market. How do you see your company growing in 5 years? And what do you consider will be a success? Will it be doubling the size of the turnover? Will it be marketing the idea? Will it be working in partnership with others? What will be the return is the commercial question behind it all. So those are the questions which I've covered largely, but the solution, describing it, what are the existing solutions, the competition, the problem you're trying to solve, these are all, I think, covered by earlier conversations. You can see what they're trying to do. Why is yours different? Why should they fund it? Is there anything else like this? Why do you want to do it now? Why is the timing right? Lots of questions. These are questions, by the way, that as a business, you should be asking yourself before you actually invest in R&D. What's the point of developing something other people have developed? Can it compete with others? Is yours better? Before you actually invest your own funding in research and development. The development side, a lot of emphasis on the team. All of these presentations, by the way, of course, are available on our website, so you can go through them in detail as well as on the Commission website and perhaps fill them in as a form before you actually make an application. So it's about the team, it's about the risks, and it's about why you can't do it without EIC funding. And finally, the go-to-market. We've covered this, the go-to-market. Who cares about the innovation? Why would the market bother to buy this? A very harsh question, but there you are. And what will the payoffs be if it's successful? So it takes 4 weeks to evaluate all that. It's evaluated remotely by a team of 4 experts based on the keywords you've given. They have expertise in technology, but in markets as well. So they're looking at the commercial potential. So we're into then looking at how innovative the project is, what the disruptive potential is. The more disruptive, the better, because that's really what they're trying to fund, and what the likely impact will be. The evaluators give their votes as a go, no go. If at least 2 of the 4 give a go, you'll be invited to submit a full proposal, and that can be done within 12 months of your original application date. If more than 2 give a no-go, it's unsuccessful at this stage, but all is not lost. The first time that you're rejected, you can resubmit, but it will have to be improved, of course. But if it's the second time, you're not allowed to resubmit for 12 months. And they're saying it must be significantly different. Why has this been done? Because they were swamped, literally, with applications on the earlier program, and it's a way of refining this. Some companies resubmitted the same proposal 6, 7, 8 times, and it's obviously wasteful of resources. we're often asked, I submitted, I got a close mark, I improved it, I resubmitted and got a lower mark. What's happening? This is because the competition, of course, on each call is different. So it could be in your first time you applied, there wasn't much competition and you came close. The second time, there might have been a lot of competition in your particular area and therefore your project was rated lower. So it's a logical thing, but it does look harsh when you've improved it. It still doesn't make the grade. So if all of that's successful, you'll be asked to submit your full proposal. To help on that, you have to have a business plan if you don't have one already. And the Commission help you to do this by having 3 days of mentoring provided free to support. That's again submitted, and you look there at 3, it's again evaluated by remote evaluators. If it's accepted, you have to pitch it to the jury for the EIC, many of which, or the majority of which, are commercial people rather than technical people. So they'll be investigating the commercial potential of your idea. And then if that goes through okay, you move to a grant agreement. For the investment component, if you've been looking for investment as well as grant, there's extra work in terms of due diligence to check the company finances, background, the legality, shareholding, and so forth, which any investor would ask to do, a bank or financial institution would do. So there's an extra process if you're seeking investment. Unfortunately, if investment's rejected, then the grant component also disappears. So it's important to make sure things are in order if you're seeking external investment. 2 other types of application, just to touch on because they're not that particularly relevant. The fast track scheme, this is for taking projects from the earlier program, Pathfinder and so forth, and helping them through to funding. So they can be entered through to the full stage proposal if they've been prepared under these various agencies. And the plug-in scheme is mentioned as perhaps being launched next year, where projects are assessed at the national level and they enter the accelerated process then at the full proposal stage rather than the preliminary. But this is a plan, nothing is concrete as yet. Okay, that's all from me. I'm expecting lots of questions. A reminder, we can take questions in Turkish and English, so please send them in. And I'll hand back to Grigoris now. Okay, Grigoris, yes, there he is, he's coming in, to focus on the key aspects of winning content. Over to you, sir.
Before we go to that, would you like to answer a couple of questions that are already asked in the Q&A session? Is it okay with you?
Yeah, sure.
So there is one that goes like this. Philip, you already started mentioning about the fact that there will be some challenges if the SME is newly focused, no solid background. Can we enlighten the audience a little bit more on that?
Yeah, I think, again, it's the measure of potential. If you have a startup with an amazingly clever idea, then it will stand a better chance of funding. If it's a sort of fairly average idea, there'll be deeper questions about what backing you have, how you can afford to fund the project through to success. So let's split it into 3. A startup with a really clever idea that convinces, and this is, wow, this is groundbreaking. It should be easy to find the backing that you need, the promises you need, that if you're successful, it can go forward. If it's a sort of incremental idea, it might be less easy to find the backing that supports your grant claim, and therefore the Commission might not be so convinced. So it's really down to the as to whether a startup, will stand more success. But in going through that process, the startup will gain a lot of knowledge, to take the business forward, if you like.
Perfect. And
it's
now,
not a simple answer.
As usual, unfortunately, these things cannot be linear. Let's go to another one. This is a very interesting one. The question is, Dear Philip, we're an academic deep tech spin-off working on agricultural biotechnology. This is my favorite topic. Area established with the support of TÜBİTAK entrepreneurship program with the code of 1512 about 3 years ago. We recently started to sell our deep tech service to abroad, Germany and France. We would like to increase our capacity, scale up, and reach to broader market. Which type of program would you suggest? Would it be only investment or some grant program as well?
It's difficult to form an opinion, of course, on that description, but it sounds like it has the potential. If you can show the potential is global enough or market penetrating enough that it would attract investment, then go for grant plus investment would be a suggestion. Because if it has commercial potential, of course, private sector investors will be interested. So the grant component, as I said, is ideally to get you over a risk. If you've taken out the risks from what you're offering, then it might be investment only that you're interested in. If there's still an element of risk, then it could be grant plus investment. And if you've not quite got it to the stage where it's fully commercializable, a grant only might apply. But it's difficult to gauge it from that description. You need to look in a lot more depth, I think. But you're the agricultural guy, so you're the man with Wellington boots. What do you think?
I would say that at this particular moment, any deep tech company that already has customers and particularly has already penetrated international market can consider itself initially material for EIC Accelerator.
Yeah.
The major problem that we normally face is companies or groups of people who do not really have the excellent technology, but they have not, let's say, touched the market yet. And this might be a little bit problematic. Yeah. I think that, of course, it depends also on the priority of the companies. Many companies will tell you that they don't like equity money, they don't like investors' money because this puts them lots of restrictions in their work. Other companies might tell you that they don't like European projects money because they need to run very fast and they don't have the time to do it properly. So it really depends also on the agenda of the company and the specificity. Sometimes it makes sense to go and chase the market rather than chase the funding. Many entrepreneurs of the old school are wondering about the younger generation. When do they have the time to talk to customers if they talk to investors all day long?
Yeah.
So you understand that there is quite some ambiguity here.
Sure. And being perhaps quite blunt, many academic developers don't want to get into the commercial world. They're more interested in the research that they do, and that's where their skills lie. And to move into a commercial situation means, you have to have a commercial input, financial input, and so on. So it could be that idea, could be marketed or whatever. There are various options. We're slipping badly on timing, so could we perhaps move on and cover your bit?
Give me a second. I'll try to do it right away. I'm still facing problems. I think now I have managed something.
Okay. And sorry, Serkan, you can have a shout later when we on questions.
If we have a few minutes, I can just remind two things.
Yes, please, yes.
Well, actually, as some of the audience know, I'm an EIC Accelerator evaluator, and there are two things that we were reminded during our expert evaluation briefings. One, it's not about proposal writing, it's about your innovation and project. So your project and innovation is more important than proposal writing and how to express it. Of course, it's very important. It's a key point that you need to express yourself in the best possible form, but prioritize your project and innovation. And the second thing is, what matters is your project again over your company. Most of the questions in the application form is about your project, not about your company. So you can just apply as a natural person if you are able to bring a good team together, if you have a working prototype, and if you validate your market interest. But if you have a company with 200 employees, but you just started to work on this project, dedicated just 3 people in the last 3 months, you have no chance. So what matters is the work you put into your project rather than overall capacity of your SME. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Grigoris.
Thank you. So,
are you wearing a watch?
I am wearing a watch. Tell me how much time do I have?
No, it's okay. Carry on.
I'll do my best to finish it in 20 minutes. So, a few things about proposal writing and a few things about the call that we are approaching now. How can we position our proposal with respect to expectations of the reviewers? It is very true that a project that is not relevant, that is not the good material for EIC Accelerator, has very bad chances to be selected. So the first thing, and the purpose of this small session here, would be to try to understand if what we have in our drawer, if the situation that we are standing in, is what the evaluators of an EIC Accelerator program ask. Of course, after the end of the session, I would like Serkan to clarify, to confirm, and of course to disagree and correct me in the things that possibly he might see in a different way. So let's start first of all by understanding why deep tech is important for Europe. This comes from a strategy of Europe that we want to invest in the so-called deep tech companies, meaning companies which are based on scientific advances of high-tech engineering, like advanced materials, AI, biotechnology, blockchain, robotics, photonics, electronics, quantum computing, and generally speaking, all these science fiction technologies, as opposed to more straightforward applications like marketplaces, like dating apps, like apps for food delivery, which are the things that we normally see investors invest. Because there are some drawbacks in the deep tech. For example, the time to market is longer. The development costs for the products are longer. The product risk is higher. However, once you achieve results, the barriers to entry are quite high as well. And the knowledge spillovers, the possibility of this particular company to bring additional knowledge spillover and potential positive benefits to society are quite even higher, quite substantiated. One important thing that we need to remember is the so-called non-bankability. Non-bankability is not anymore so much highlighted as such with these words. However, still, the EIC Accelerator material is something that it is too risky for traditional finance institutions like banks. Possibly sometimes is also too risky or too difficult to understand from the VCs, the venture capitalists, the risk investors as well. And certainly the national grant schemes might be too small or too cumbersome to fulfill the expectations of the startup entrepreneur. And this is practically, EIC Accelerator is looking at companies which have high level of risk, but also high level of potential. And based on this interplay between risk and potential, these are companies which are non-bankable, but they are EIC Accelerator material. Let's try to see some examples, because a project might be non-bankable because it lacks attractiveness from a business perspective. A project might be non-bankable because the shareholding structure is not in the position to secure the position of further investment from the VCs, or because there is a systematic risk capital market gap. And this is the case when there is a problem because the risk capital market is not mature or it's not well informed enough. This is the problem where EIC Accelerator applies. This is the space and the territory for EIC Accelerator. Let's look. I always use this example. This is a real friend of mine. His name is Manolis. We went to high school together. He runs an excellent company. He works with with industrial automation. He brings international brands like Siemens, like Mitsubishi, like Omron, like Fanuc, Schneider, to private sector customers in Greece. He helps with his technologies companies of the manufacturing sector to introduce robotics, to introduce automation, to introduce a pool of innovations. And with all these innovations, he also offers end-to-end support with service, with everything. Technology, yes. Innovation, a lot. Nevertheless, there is no global ambition. His company is great. It will always pay the salaries of 10 people. It will always have 10 families surviving from the work and everything. However, it has no potential to scale up outside the borders of his region because he's actually a reseller. He's a value-added partner of companies who have the IP. It has no proprietary technology. It applies, sells, and provides services on the basis of technologies of others. Hence, it has no significant scale-up potential. From 10 people, maybe they will move to 15 or to 20 people. But that would be it. There are no abnormal retells in this story. So this company is clearly not in EIC Accelerator material. Let's see who is. Look at this company. They are applying deep learned technologies. They have a global effort. They are working towards a global challenge, which is mosquito-borne diseases. And they have their own patents. They have already attended investors, etc. So you can see from the things that they have highlighted, there are a few things that make a company material for EIC Accelerator. By the way, this company happened to be among ones that have been indeed funded. Its name is Senetio Robotics. It has been indeed funded by the EIC Accelerator in one of the previous rounds during Horizon 2020. Let's look at another example now. Let's imagine we have a technology, we have a company. The technology was in fact first found in the lab. Inside the lab there were two people who were ready to take the company as a CEO and CTO and co-founders. And he also had a few researchers that were there. They were very much supportive in the company in the beginning with the scientific paper. They are also supporting now the company mentally, but they are too busy with academic duties. They're too busy on the day-to-day basis. They cannot really commit. And of course, you have the professor. The professor was also involved in the research. He provided strategic guidance to everyone. He gave everybody his support, and he provided the enabling environment and the access to the research infrastructure. So all these people have shares in the company. The co-founder 20, the other co-founder 20, researchers from 10. The professor has 15, of course, because he was a senior member of the team. And then you have a software engineer. At one point, they needed some initial development of the platform. So they invited the software engineer. They couldn't afford to pay him salary or some fee for his services. So they also gave him a share of the company. And then they needed an office, and they didn't have an office. So the uncle of one of the founders also offered them space in his premises, and they offered him another 5%. Question is this company investable? Is this company bankable? The answer is no. Why? Because this ownership structure means that the majority of the shareholders are passive. They are non-active. They are not involved in the day-to-day running of the company. And this means that this company is not investable by any VC and possibly not by EIC Accelerator. So normally what you will see for a company to be investable would be something like that, that you have a good percentage for the initial founding team, that you have a very good initial pool to incentivize new hires, and you have also other key people that are staying there and having shares as well in the company. Another example, here you see one of the companies that has won in the previous time. And why did they win? They win because they had a solid technical solution, they had a realistic business model, they achieved some funding, and just to clarify, you don't need to personally know Angela Merkel to win an EIC Accelerator proposal. It can happen basically through an advanced business model. Meaning that they had a patented technology, that they had very ambitious financial targets, they had already sales contracts achieved, over 1.5 million euros already signed, and they were targeting revenues of more than 90 million euros to create 235 jobs after 3 years after completing the project. You understand that these guys had ticked all the boxes. They had to be financed. It's just that their technology was quite complicated, and this stopped the traditional VCs from not being able to understand it, hence to finance it. So here, the EIC Accelerator material, as we call it, is a company that a typical VC would not finance it because they don't understand it, because they don't see profits, because they only finance e-commerce and sites for food delivery, etc. The banks, not a discussion. It's too risky, too complicated. It doesn't generate revenues, etc. The grant schemes are schemes that are sometimes, as we said, too small or too focused or too slow or whatever. So companies, or the money from there might not be enough to really help the company scale up. So these are the things that make the systematic capital risk market gap companies, the ones who fall into this category, make them good material for EIC Accelerator. So how to convince the reviewers? You might mention that you have already discussed with VCs. You might mention in your proposal and use relevant facts and data for Turkey that the VCs in your country might not be the right ones, and move forward. And basically use relevant data and try to explain to in your proposal what you will do if you don't get the funding, financial support from EIC pilot. You would like to go to the United States to try your luck here, and this is something that they would like to stop. Because practically, when we're talking about scalability, we need to create the conditions so that European startups don't need to go from Istanbul to San Francisco to be successful. They don't need to change the continent. They can grow and scale up here in Europe, in the European research area, so that we can benefit, the society of Europe can benefit. Based on that, a very important aspect is how can we demonstrate scalability. A typical financial definition of scalability is a company's ability to maintain or even improve profit margin while sales volume increase. And this happens when we apply a business model that is scalable, when we have a motivated and capable team, substantial demand, favorable market conditions, well-defined financial needs, and of course, realistic financial projections. Some good drivers, some good elements that can guarantee scaling are a light asset base. If we need, in order to grow, if we need huge and complicated infrastructure, that might be a problem. Process automation, of course, helps. Low-cost labor, whenever this is a benefit in part of the countries that might be. And of course, the replication potential. Then, let's leave the scientific definition a little bit aside, and then let's try to think of scalability as the ability to get more than you put in as you grow. As you can see here, growing is a steady growth that you are putting some investments and then you need to continue investing to maintain the level of revenues and growth. And here you see that we are creating substantially more output with the same input when we are having a scalable business model, when we are achieving scalability. Then we need to talk about maturity in terms of technology readiness levels. Possibly you heard that many times before. Technology readiness levels is a methodology that has been invented by NASA in the past to depict the full scale of different maturity levels of a technology, starting from an idea on a piece of paper up to a product on the shelf. When we are talking about technology readiness levels, in the case of EIC Accelerator, we are moving in a territory, we're moving in a neighborhood between 6 and 9. So you start from theoretically, you already have a prototype system that works to be considered good for EIC Accelerator material. And then you go up to 8 with the budget of the grant. And then if you want to go to 9, you have to go either on your own or with the money of your investors. That might be even the EIC fund that can be one of your investors if you cannot attract others. Now, a solid question is, what if I have an earlier stage idea? For this territory, as we saw earlier in the Horizon Europe program, there are other calls. For example, the very interesting call is the EIC Pathfinder that makes sense. Then there is a very interesting concept that has to do with the business readiness levels. And the business readiness levels here, we can see it again in 3 elements where you have the business conceptualization, where you have the business testing, and last but not least, the business deployment. A technology and an idea and a company is EIC material when we are moving around the business deployment stage, when we are moving around this territory, we would say. And then, what is a break-even point? This is also good to remember. And I will try to ask, they're very often asking me, should the company achieve break-even before submitting the proposal for EIC Accelerator? My answer is no. It doesn't necessarily need to be like that. But the company needs to present there a quite credible plan to stop losing money. Break-even is the point where a company stop losing money. And this is practically the point where the revenues from sales can offset the total cost, which is the sum of fixed costs and the variable cost, the one who changes with the volume of sales. Bottom line here, it's reasonable for a startup, for an SME, to ask for funding even before reaching the break-even point. But it has, as we said before, it has to be convincing to the evaluators that it has the procedures and the vision and the operational activities in place to reach the break-even point a little bit during or a little bit after the end of the project. Then, it's important to be in a growing market. That's also a very important aspect. Let's see at this example at the top, at the bottom right corner of the meat. The meat market per se will have in total a cumulative growth rate of 3%. But inside this market, we have the conventional meat that will actually have a decrease as a market share of 3%. We will have the vegan meat replacements that will grow with 9%. And we have the cultured meat, a new technology that we expect to grow by 41% by 2040. So you understand that it's not only important to be in a growing sector, you need to be in the growing segment of the sector in order to be able to convince them that you are participating in a growing market. The framework that we use to present the size of the market is what you possibly have heard from other marketing courses, TAM, SAM, SOM. TAM, SAM, SOM is not some North Korean nuclear scientist. It's a model that we start by describing the total available market. For example, the global agricultural robotics market. Let's say we're talking about an agricultural robot. Then the serviceable addressable market is the total market for those robots that we are producing. If we're making, for example, spraying robot, the serviceable addressable market is a subset of the total market and is the segment for spraying robots. And then we go to the SOM, which is what is really the size of our market. This is the serviceable obtainable market. This is the market that it's realistic to say that we can address because of the practical limits, because of the geographical position, because of my sales and distribution capacity, or the possibility not to be able even to go to some other market and so on. From there, the market sizes, we see it's important to depict it both in terms of segmentation, but also in terms of pricing policy, in terms of how do we adjust ourselves and our policy with the differences of the market. And then comes a point that we have discussed many times with Philip, the unique selling point. One of the things that I've learned from Philip is for a unique selling point to be valid, it needs to be unique. It needs to be something very distinctive. And this something which is very distinctive is, of course, it has to cover what the customers want. It has to cover what we are doing well, and it has to exclude what our competitors are doing well. So you see that this little bluish greenish area here is in fact the part that expresses the unique selling point, the positioning of the unique selling point. Other topics that I will not become tired to repeat, and Philip, in 3 minutes I finish, I promise. I will keep my promise for finishing at 12. Green Deal, very important. We are living at the times now, as Philip said, that everything needs to be coated with green. So try to look very, very carefully how your solution, how your product, how your idea fits into the Green Deal story. And it's not enough to fit into the Green Deal story, but you also need to convince them that you are doing no significant harm. So your solution and your idea needs to be assured that it does not do any significant harm to climate change mitigation, to climate change adaptation, to sustainable use of maritime resources and protection of water, to circular economy, pollution prevention and control, and protection, restoration of diversity and ecosystems. These 6 areas are the areas where you have to confirm in your proposals that you are not doing significant harm. This is a new jargon of European Commission, but quite important for our entrepreneurial activities in the times of Green Deal. And last but not least, I will touch gender equality. What do we mean by gender equality? More women participating in the research and innovation program, better integration of this dimension to the projects, more participation from countries, widening countries like Turkey, like South Mediterranean, like Baltics, etc., and broader gender equality policies in research and innovation for intersections with other potential grounds for discrimination, like ethnicity, disability, sexual orientation, etc. In practice, in Horizon Europe, the gender dimension becomes a requirement by default in all calls, including the EIC. Particularly for the EIC, there is a political will that 40% of woman-led companies will be invited to pitch their project, while the juries will be at least 50% comprised by women. And also there will be, in all evaluation panels, particular attention also in relevant advisory bodies or in all, generally speaking, decision-making or consultative bodies of European Commission, there will be a part which will be related to that. Having said that, I think we are on time to stop this session.
Okay, thanks. Sorry, there we are. Thanks, Grigoris. That's much appreciated. A huge amount of information there, and I hope we're not swamping our audience, but our audience are obviously very clever, very intelligent people, and it's easy to understand all this if you go to the other side of the table and you put yourself in the shoes of the Commission and say, well, these are the political ideals that I have. These are the directions, these are the policy decisions. So how can I judge your proposal? And if you look at it from their perspective, much of it is common sense, business sense, commercial sense. And I think that helps to simplify it. Serkan, do you have any comments?
No, actually.
Okay, right. That's easy enough.
The presentations were really comprehensive. And I can just agree with everything Grigoris and you said. And this is a good moment to remember there are 2,000 evaluators distributed around Europe, and 4 of them will be evaluating short applications, and all applicants should satisfy at least 2 of them, receiving positive feedbacks. So we follow the same evaluation criteria, we follow the same practice, but we also have, as evaluators, different perspectives, backgrounds, and experiences. So we are free to reflect on them. Yep. So applicants should be prepared to satisfy more than 1 evaluators with the same proposals.
Sure. Yeah, that's a good lead into the next short presentation. This one I've called do's and don'ts of bidding to the EC, but it probably should be the other way around, the don'ts and do's. As I mentioned, the 3 of us and the larger team have looked at many proposals, and I myself have been to 130 Turkish companies and dealt with their proposals. But of course, we all have much wider experience from work with the Commission as well. So this is, if you like, a gathering of thoughts of some of the common problems that we find in order to help you with the background to a bid. I must begin by saying Turkey has done, I think, extremely well. I've worked in 35 different countries, and I think the package that Turkey offers is up there amongst the best to build the national infrastructure, investment in science parks, grants, tax subsidies, and so forth. TÜBİTAK, of course, and the ministry providing support. In the businesses I've been to, I've seen some excellent talent, some very clever people and scientists, and look no further than BioNTech, a Turkish married couple who not only introduced one of the most successful vaccines against COVID, but actually have started a whole new science in how you attack viral diseases. So, a proud Turkish achievement, I think. So lots of innovative ideas and products. And increasing interest, I think, from investment in Turkey, from venture capitalists and so forth. However, there's always a but in these things, isn't there? And the but is that they could do much better. Every country could do much better. But in the companies we've been to, there's often a lack of strategy or business planning. And therefore, they're not aware of the full potential of their business. Often they're satisfied with more of the same, with no real ambition to grow. This is often the case with family-owned businesses, where they're quite happy with the income they've had, and they see that moving on to the next generation. A decision that they're quite at ease to take, but in many cases, they're not releasing the potential of that business. And of course, if a new generation takes over, the older generation often will hold them back. So it is an issue with family-owned businesses. Often suspicious of outsiders' advice, which, is a good thing to have, but not to be over suspicious. Not very aware of competition. They're often supplying to the domestic Turkish market, would like to export, but don't really have the ambition to do so. They're doing okay domestically. So there can be short-sightedness on markets, and there can be low investment in marketing. People often see marketing as selling. Of course, it's not. Marketing precedes selling. It looks at where you can best sell and how you can best sell. It's a different topic. And again, in product development, it goes back to more of the same, not taking the product further forward, and therefore eventually losing out to competition who do. But many businesses do very well. Okay, there are economic issues and so forth, but many do very well despite them. But we're here, of course, to release that potential, to build on that potential and make them even greater. So I've summarized the key problems we've found into 4 areas: markets, products, management, and resources. So if we look at markets, first of all, these are the don'ts. So don't assume that there's a market for your product. A lot of people assume because it sells, perhaps in Turkey, it will sell everywhere else. I saw this in working in Egypt. The shoemakers in Egypt produced lots and lots of stock of shoes that honestly in styles that would not sell outside Egypt. So it's important to look at your product and see whether it matches the market and what the market wants. So don't assume that customers will want it. And stepping outside of your known customer base can be dangerous. You can make assumptions that you would know better if you were engaged in that market. In doing all of this, don't neglect the core business and customers. In some cases, the company focuses on a new product and they lose out on existing customers and markets. So the tick there for the do's, you need to, if you're applying for funding, do quite a bit of research on your competitors, see what they're up to, whether that product exists somewhere else and so on. Identify the potential customers, not just the market, not assume that the customers will buy, and try to verify that need. Try to prove there is a need in the market you're focusing on. If you're going to focus on a particular market, I mentioned earlier 50 countries in Europe, 27 member states, so forth, but only a handful of them will, for instance, speak English as a native language. So, focusing on a market most important, but then how will you serve them? Will it be directly? If it's going to be directly, will you set up an office there? If it's going to be indirectly, will you appoint agents? Will you look for a partner? How will you actually serve the market rather than simply assuming you can? The general view is often, well, we have this wonderful product, it's got to be a good seller and it could sell anywhere, but that's not good enough for the Commission to put funding behind it. And sticking to what you know best, okay, that can be restrictive, but it can also give you a better foresight into what you're doing. Looking at the questions I mentioned earlier, do you remember what's your target market? Who cares about it? Why do you think it will be a market success? What are the payoffs? Those can be answered by the tick boxes there, by just looking more at the market, who will buy, why they'll buy, and how you will sell to them, how you'll market to them and sell to them. So then looking at products, so what's the clever idea? So in some companies I've been to, they have not bothered to check whether such a product exists anywhere else. It may not exist in Turkey, and they may have a good market domestically. But I've sat in meetings where I've looked on my smartphone and found very similar products already in the market, and the company have not been aware of that. Now, that's not any form of it's a failing. It's not a lack of intelligence. They've simply been focused on their wonderful product and not bothered to see if anyone else makes it. Try to apply, of course, to the Commission on the disruptive ideas rather than incremental. If it's incremental, if it's a slight change to a product, can still get funded, but it's less easy to get funding than proving that it's disruptive. Don't forget to clarify the risks. As I mentioned, the Commission like to fund risks, so explain the risks and why you would like them to fund it and what will happen if they do. Remember that what might be innovative in one market may not be in others. Countries develop at different stages, and an innovation in one place may be commonplace in another. So it's back to looking at your markets and the competition. And again, don't assume success. Try to prove that it will be successful. In fact, you must prove some form of success to attract funding. So the do's there then. Try to ensure the product's disruptive, not always possible, but if it's an incremental change, show that that incremental change will make it a commercial success. The Commission love a wow factor. The evaluators love something with a wow to it that will put you ahead of the competition. And similarly, something with novelty that appears to them. You may have an industrial process improvement that's going to save millions, but it doesn't come over as novel or wow, whereas some clever bit of electronics or something could do that. So try to give the wow factor. That wow might be how much money it will save or make, of course. Wow and novelty important. Try and explain the concept in simple terms. A lot of companies are scientists, technologists, and they love to talk about science and technology, usually in three-letter acronyms. I'm an engineer myself, so I'm probably guilty of this. But remember that the evaluators will also be from a commercial and financial background, and it's good to explain things in a straightforward way, obviously to convince the technical people involved, but also so that people who are not technically trained can understand. And it can be quite difficult to do this because our mindset is one of technical. Don't assume they know the market, don't assume they know the technology, the acronyms, try and explain it quite simply. And showing the niche market for the product, there may be a market, but it's a particular niche that you're selling into, as Grigoris has just talked about with his North Korean atomic scientist. You have to focus in on what market is particular to your product and how you can actually serve it. So the answers that's dealing with in the application, who cares about the innovation? Will it have a broader societal, economic, environmental or climate impact? Again, Grigoris touched on this. The existing solutions, why do you think yours will be successful and why is the timing right for it now? So on to management, the third one. How are you going to do all this? Please, please, please don't proceed without some form of strategy and business plan. You have to provide a business plan if you do a full proposal, but any business should have some form of strategy and a business plan associated with it. It's vital for a business to have that. Don't treat Accelerator as just another grant application. It isn't. It's not a matter of filling a form in and getting some money. and it won't be evaluated by scientists and technologists. It has to be a commercial submission with a commercial return. Don't assume things, find out. There's lots of information, as we've already said. Don't assume that something is right, check it out. Don't leave it to others. Quite often we see a clever student or a clever new employee being handed the whole thing and saying, apply to the Commission for this funding. You wouldn't do that with a major customer, and you shouldn't do it with your bid to the Commission. The management must be engaged and take charge and come up with the goods and lead and ask questions. It's a management issue. Sometimes there's confusion on what business model and how it's financed. That has to be quite clear for the Commission, and it goes back to the strategy and business plan. If you don't have a strategy and business plan, how can you have a business model? The two are related. And of course, with that is the financing. And a simple thing, don't forget to check all documentations correctly completed. I know in the days when paper documents were submitted, something like 20% of them fell out because they weren't signed. A very simple thing to do, but there are requirements to provide different forms and acceptances of conditions and so forth. Make sure it's all done. So the do's, do have a strategy and business plan. I always advocate taking a 5-year view of your strategy. I know you can't look forward 5 years, but having some idea, and you'll find among colleagues, well, we should double in size. No, we should stay as we are. We should go into manufacturing. No, we should stick with research. It's those things that you need to talk about with strategy. And it's good to have a rolling 5-year plan. So each year, towards the end of a year, perhaps, you add another year to your 5-year plan, but then you produce a business plan for the coming year, which puts down in much more detail what you're going to do, what your targets will be, how you will spend the money, and that then is agreed with your colleagues, and you can move forward on that basis. Review it every month if you wish, every quarter certainly, see whether it needs to change and agree between you, but at least you're working to a plan. Enthusiasm, most important to drive forward these submissions. Enthuse about it. Yes, there are problems. Yes, there are things that you find difficult. It's public money, so it can be bureaucratic, but enthuse and drive the team forward. Get them into thinking this is really going to be a success. To do that, you need enough time and resources to achieve that, to write a good proposal, to rewrite, and of course you have to do your pitch deck and your video, so there's quite a bit of time and resource involved. If you don't think you can commit to the time, you're too busy, or don't have the financial resources, you're going to be at a disadvantage. And if you think it's all too complicated and bureaucratic, decide that before you start, not during or after, because you're going to save money if you decide it first. Simple as that. Oops, sorry. So resources, where are we? Sorry. What backup is there? This is, what's backing this, this bid. So I've said, don't leave it all to junior employees or a technical person or an accountant. It's a team effort. Don't overemphasize the science and technology, which again I've said. So don't overbalance the academic achievement with the commercial experience. It has to be balanced. By talking more about the technical achievement, you show how much you don't know about the commercial side. It has the opposite effect. You're seen as too technical and not commercial enough. The balance has to be there. And don't ignore all this help that we've talked about earlier that's out there from the Commission, from TÜBİTAK, from our project, because we can help on lots of different aspects. So it has to be a team effort. And this is what will be tested if you go forward to pitching to a judging panel. They want to see 3 members of the team, the main 3 members of the team, to discuss. And there have been cases in Turkey where companies have got as far as the judging panel and failed at that level because they've not demonstrated good management and team effort, which is a great pity. So they're funding commercial prospects, not research projects. So they're looking for a balance between technical, commercial, finance. The help I've already talked about, and as I've just said, ensure the balanced team between the three and show someone who's clearly in charge. It doesn't do to go forward and say, we're joint managing directors, joint chief executives. Have someone in charge who'll take responsibility for the project and for the funding. It's clear. Remember, you're always in a competition. So if you're vague on these things, someone else will be stronger and will win the funding. So these are the questions that we talked about earlier about the team. Do you have the right team? Do you need to recruit? Will you cooperate with others? They're all the questions that will be answered by the section I've just talked about. So a quick summary. Make sure that the innovation is needed and who needs it, and that it doesn't already exist. Now, this is an obvious statement. Anybody with a commercial hat on their head will say, well, we must do this before we invest in research. But in many companies, it's not done. Carefully review the documentation, the system, the work plans, the calls, so that your proposal matches what they're looking for at the time they want it. You won't change what the commission are looking for. You can change your proposal to fit with the keywords of the day, of the moment, and in their work plans. Make sure you're familiar with the bidding process and how it works. Don't be taken by surprise. Oh, we haven't done this, we haven't done that, when it's too late. The balance I've already said between science, technology, commercial, finance, very important. And finally, when you're preparing rough budgets to begin with and then final budgets, make sure they're rational and justifiable. Don't look at what's available and gear your budget to it. Look at what you need as a budget and then see if it fits. So again, a reminder, thank you for participating. Please send us your questions. We'd love to hear from you. So at this point, hand back to Grigoris. Now, if you remember, we talked about the application process, the proposal, what could be in it, but there are two extra things that are most important, and that's the pitch deck and the 3-minute video. So we'll have a final 2 presentations to talk about those 2 things. So Grigoris will talk to us about the pitch deck. Any comments from our friend Serkan on the last presentation?
No, it was very great and comprehensive. Thank you very much.
Okay, right, okay. I hope questions are coming in whilst we're talking.
Yes, yes, right. I had a lot of questions down in the Q&A box, and I'm answering all of them.
That's good, yeah. Again, please, Turkish or English, it doesn't matter, we can deal with both. I can't, but Serkan can. Okay, over to Grigoris.
Oh, hello. It seems that this matter I have demystified the technological problems and I can run my presentation on time. Let's hope it will remain like that.
Well done.
Good luck.
So, pitch deck. Pitch deck. What is a pitch deck? What is a pitch deck? Pitch deck is a key part of our fundraising toolkit. Pitch deck is a piece of communication, a piece of information that includes valuable information related to our company, our startup, the traction that we have, the goals and we have achieved, the executive teams, the value proposition, the competition, and many others. We will try now to look at the pitch deck from the perspective of the EIC Accelerator. Nevertheless, I would like to stress and highlight the fact that the pitch deck principles apply to all cases. What we will present now, we are, for the time being, the best that we know is that the template for the pitch will remain the same as Horizon 2020. There are no significant changes. And generally speaking, that was considered a very good pitch deck, exactly because it was aiming to cover all the necessary things that normally investors, but also the evaluators in EIC Accelerator would look at. And this includes a company purpose, a problem or solution, a value proposition, market opportunity and risk, competition, business model, commercialization strategy and marketing strategy, financial projections, the team, and if you can, a conclusion. Generally speaking, after the submission of the second phase, the first phase is fine, changes might happen. And generally speaking, we try to keep it small. We try to keep in mind the award criteria, keep in mind that you will need 10 minutes to present it. Don't overload it with text. Don't forget to make sure that everything works in a separate PDF file, and so on and so forth. At various points, we will also put here successful pitches from companies that you might know or not know. And actually, I think that you might know them very well, because the two companies we have selected are very well to all of you. Some of you have already invited to connect with me in LinkedIn, for example, and I invite the rest of you if you want to connect with me via LinkedIn. But you probably know that LinkedIn was once a startup itself. So we have some elements of the pitch deck of LinkedIn with us. And we also have another startup that has conquered the world since then. Possibly most of you have benefited of the services of Airbnb to find affordable rooms all over the world. And I have to tell you that I have done it myself. And this is another startup at this point, when it started, whose pitch deck we are going to look at. So we start, and the first slide is always the company purpose. And this is something that is our mission. This is something that we need to be able to present in one sentence. As a famous author, Simon Sinek, said, people will not buy what you do, they will buy why you do it. And what you do simply proves that what you believe. Let me try to give it to you by a simple example. Let's suppose that the flights schedules is back to normal, and we are all waiting in an airport in the queue to board on the plane. And we have a small talk in the airport together. So you would ask me, what do you do in life? If I will tell you, I'm a senior expert in the project Turkey in Horizon 2020, delivering trainings on EIC Accelerator. What is this? If I was to tell you that my job is to help Turkish startups get funding from Europe, you would very much easily understand that in one powerful sentence, I could very much better explain myself, who I am, what I stand for, what I'm doing. And this is exactly what this one strong, powerful sentence needs to be able to do for you. So look at the Airbnb. What was this pickup sentence? What was this magic sentence about the company purpose? Book rooms with locals rather than hotels. Simple as that. When Airbnb started, that was the one sentence, the killer one sentence that explained the company purpose of Airbnb. Look at LinkedIn. What was the killer sentence of LinkedIn? Find and contact the people you need through the people you already trust. Simple, powerful, no difficult jargon. Everything that you see here is something that you could easily explain also to your mother with the same exact vocabulary. Then we move to the problem and the solution. The answer that we have to give here is, what is the customer pain? Is there a problem or an unmet market need? Can we somehow tell a story about our innovation is unique and how it can alleviate the pain or fulfill the need of the customer? Again, Airbnb, how do they present the problem? Price is an important concern for customers booking travel online. Hotels leave you disconnected from the city and its culture, and there is no easy way to book a home with a local or become a host. That was the problem they were trying to solve. And the solution, a web platform when users can rent out their spaces to host travelers so that travelers can save money when traveling. Hosts can make money when hosting, and both of them can share culture and connect to each other, but also for the visitors to connect better to the city. You see how powerful, simple, and straightforward their message is. So the value proposition is another slide that how do our customers, we explain how our customers, we believe that they value our offering. And we try to define and assess the concrete benefits that the customer gets from using our products or services. One famous canvas to describe that is the so-called value proposition canvas that connects the value proposition with the customer profile. The customer has some gains from using our service, has some pains that they need to alleviate, to sort out while using our product or service. And of course, they have some jobs to do, some tasks to deliver themselves. And then our products and services need to be highlighted with respect to gain creators and pain relievers so that we achieve what we call the product market fit. We achieve the fit of the functionalities of our product with the expectations of the customers. And this is what the value proposition canvas is aimed to be depicting. So you see here how simple the value proposition of Airbnb is explained. Search a city, review listings, book it. This is our product from 1 to 3 easy steps, and also with the experience. Then from that, we move to the market opportunity, and also we check on the potential. So what are the market creating potential? Again, we need to give a prediction of the size of the target market and the share that we intend to capture. We need to explain how our product will transform the market, but also we need to demonstrate that we are cautious and we are aware also of potential risks related to our innovation and how we could deal with them. Sorry, it seems to be stuck. So you see here Airbnb market validation, market size. They're explaining a little bit with these types of elements. Is my screen visible still?
Yes, we can hear you and see your slides.
Okay, that's good.
Market opportunity and risk slides right now.
Okay, perfect. So technically speaking, you can see here the market size that Airbnb was at this point somehow predicting. And then we move to the competition. Who is the competitor? How can we overtake the competition? These are questions that we need to be able to address. And based on those questions, you see here that Airbnb was listing the competition in terms of some basic functionalities, in terms of affordability, and in terms of the possibility to perform transactions online or offline. And then they have placed themselves in the top quartile. Philip, I'm always confusing this word. I apologize.
Quartile.
Quartile. Okay, the top quartile of the competition. They place themselves into that domain. Then from there, you see also LinkedIn, again, placing themselves in the top quartile of the competition. And they also try to differentiate the competitors with the focus either on social or professional aspects, and whether the model is based on internet service or enterprise service. Then, the competition, LinkedIn identified already that with their position, they create strong barriers to entry to others, because they would be achieving market leadership, they would develop network effects and user trust, and they would have a series of patents. One was already granted, one was already pending. So they do have 2 key patents related to viral marketing and social networking. Then another point, the business model. The business model is a very simple question. How do we make money? What is our revenue model, our pricing, our cost structure, and the schedule of when revenues will start becoming in? So the idea here is you can see that one of the most neat and clever business models ever applied in the digital world is the business model of Google. So here you can see how we can be able, from users that are simply approaching the solution, how can we generate knowledge, how we can engage businesses, how can we engage publishers of advertisement content, and so on and so forth. Here you see a very, very even simpler and very, very neat business model of Airbnb. We take a 10% commission of each transaction. These are the trips that we expect. This is the average fee. This is the revenue for the next years. Easy, neat, and self-explanatory. Then, when we go to commercialization and marketing strategy, here the question is, what is the plan to reach out your customers and enter the market. What is the time to market? You see, for example, LinkedIn has already explained, had already a 2 years agreement with various players and had already approached Fortune 500 HR departments, university career centers. It is already one of the largest database online, and we're talking about the beginning of the millennium about this aspects. And they are explaining that so far, with 4 million spent, they have achieved a large user base, high quality users, big variety and a rich depth of groups, and of course they have concrete plans for business development. This is more or less the type of content that you are expected to present as well. We're talking about in August 2004, that was the date that this was prepared. And then we go, of course, to a slide summarizing financial projections. Financial projections related to sales, clients, investors. They have to answer to the question how the money received will be used, how the money will be invested in order to achieve the company's goals better, and also what are the other investments that possibly the company has attracted, how the EU fund will contribute to the project as well. This is another important aspect that needs to be taken into account. You see here, when LinkedIn was circulating this pitch deck, they were raising Series B. So you see here that their financial projections are way much more mature. They have a 5-year financial projections, which are valid. They have a baseline year historical, and their conservative projections, we can see already that they are quite impressive in terms of how much they grow in terms of users, but also how much they grow in terms of headcount and in terms of net cash position. And last but not least, we say it very often, Philip, that we want to support the jockey and not the horse. The team is one of the most important aspects, elements of any pitch, of any proposal. Therefore, it's important to know who are the team members, if they have not only the determination, but also if they have previous achievements, previous commercial success, previous milestones that they have accomplished that somehow justify their position in the leading team of the company. You can see here, for example, the former, the CEO of LinkedIn at this time was former founding member of PayPal. You see many people coming from PayPal or from other social networks to be involved. You see people even coming from bigger companies, analysts from big consultancies like McKinsey, but also a technical team with experience in all the big IT companies like Apple, Cisco, Hotwire, Citigroup, etc., etc. You understand here that this is a team that it's easy to be trusted both by private investors, but also from the valuators from the EIC, because they have complementarity, because they have previous experience in top jobs, and because they have a good allocation of tasks among the team members. And then the last slide is about a conclusion. This is a convincing summary, a convincing pickup line to convince and leave a lasting impression. Normally, in this case, I would put forward one quote from Victor Hugo, that there is nothing more powerful than an idea whose time has come. The last slide needs to create the fear of missing out to investors, but also to the reviewers. Needs to convince them that now is the time, you are the team, and now, here is the place for them to place an investment in the next round. I would say that this was more or less the parts from my side, and I'm happy to receive questions based on those.
I think Henry Ford had a similar idea, didn't he? He said the main two business drivers are greed and fear. Greed in terms of making more money, but the bigger one was fear in losing it to other people. Just on the Q&A, Serkan, when we get to Q&A after my presentation, could you do a quick resume of the questions you've been dealing with? Because we've had quite a nice number of questions, I think. So if you don't mind.
Sure.
Okay. So rather than take questions now, shall we move on to the presentation and then take them as Q&A, if you don't mind, Grigoris?
I'm fine with that.
Okay, right. So a final short presentation on the last element of this bid submission, the 3-minute video. This is where I put my director's hat on and hope for an Oscar award. So here we go. The first health warning. This aspect and the new Accelerator program is so recent, there's no real guidance or feedback on the 3-minute video. So this presentation is based on good working practice and to help get you thinking about what you may do as a 3-minute video submission. The second health warning, we all see ourselves as movie directors. We've all been there with our cameras and our videos and all the rest. We all think we're good at it. But you wouldn't perform surgery on yourself. You wouldn't pull your own teeth out. So you need a bit of knowledge and expertise in anything that you deal with. So what do the EC expect? The EC are European Commission are very bland about this. They just say that they want core members of the team, up to 3 people. They should illustrate the innovation and the main motivation behind the application. You should keep it simple. The objective is to show the team behind the idea. And if you don't have a team, you can include future team members if you wish. Now, all that's very good, but I think that this will be a very competitive element of the bid submissions. It's your opportunity to show yourself to the Commission, to show your clever idea, how it would be marketed, and the team itself. So I think it needs more than simply a 3-minute recording on that basis. So should it be homemade? Should it be professional? They expect a simple video, but as I say, it may become very competitive, and it's so important in getting your project reviewed. But you have lots of online resources, as we know, the iPhone, iMovies, all the rest that you can use to prepare a video. But it's not just about the technology. The making of films and production go back over 100 years. So there are lessons to learn before you attempt to use all the clever technology that will make a video. Here are the 6 key aspects that I'm not a movie maker, but this seems to be the main drift of what you need to consider. So the format that you're going to use, your audience, of course, the message you're getting across, the content of your video, some issues around presentation and technology. So formats, we have lots of different ways. We have the talking head, the person who sits there and talks to screen, which can be very boring. It's informative. And you'll notice on news bulletins, although newscasters sit and talk about the news, they have to because it's obviously as it's happening. But behind them, there's lots of movement, pictures. They switch to video clips and correspondence to make it more interesting and to get the message over. You can go the other way and simply have video footage with a voiceover, somebody a bit like these nature programs you see, where they're telling you what's happening, what's not happening, who's being eaten, and all of those things. There's the interview. The interview, we're seeing 2 people about the project and what it does. In this case, it will be 3 people, of course. You're trying to get the team forward. You may already have existing footage from your idea being developed or in use that you can incorporate. The simplest way is to simply take your pitch deck, which Grigoris has just gone through, and use video linked stills to go through it. Now, 3 minutes seems short, but 3 minutes is a long time when it comes to visual images. A TV commercial, when you think of the message they get across in 15 or 30 seconds, is quite amazing. A whole story in 30 seconds, and a 1-minute commercial seems very long. So 3 minutes is quite a good amount of time to get your message over. So knowing your audience, give them what they want to hear. So what do they want to hear? They want to hear about you, your team, the wow factor, the novelty, and ideally they can see the wow factor and the novelty, as well as the background to how it's been developed and what the potential is. So talk to them, not at them. That's very important. You're speaking directly to an audience. Imagine they're in the room and you're convincing them your project is better than any other. Include elements that keep their attention. I've been working recently with a company that do something related to quarrying with explosions. Showing an explosion and what happens, it's obviously an impactful thing. It grabs their attention. TV commercials do this all the time, grabbing attention. And remembering the brain processes images 60,000 times faster than text. So rather than using text and the spoken word, images speak much more loudly and are far more interesting. So here's the wow factor, getting the message across. So impact initially, following up with the problem that you'll be solving and the bigger benefits that come from doing that. Don't forget to describe the clever solution and don't forget the market, most important. But keep the elements that will keep their attention. Don't go off into long details about the career details, about how many years it's taken to develop, about the technical principles. If you're talking technical principles, try and put them in a straightforward, understandable way. So keeping it simple, to the point, short, snappy. Plan ahead so that then you can edit any footage you do, and it can be changed to fit with the 3 minutes. It can be timed to fit. The industry uses storyboards so that they know the flow that they want and the sequence of the film that they'll make. You know, the clapboard, which goes into different scenes. All of that's produced on a storyboard, and what happens. Try and do that. Include all the team members, but have fairly strict scripts. You don't want someone that goes on endlessly about their qualifications, because then that takes up time that's not available for other things. Use the time wisely. And again, as I said earlier, use the language the audience can relate to, but remembering that technologists may be in the minority. Okay, then the presentational issues, obviously the quality, the clarity, the fluency of the speakers. You'll be using English. Some people are not comfortable with that. But remember, many evaluators don't speak native English either. So fairly simple, straightforward English is good enough. And as long as they can understand it, that's better. The appearance, it goes fairly obvious, but you know, I've spoken to IT companies where they have crazy haircuts and red shirts and things. I've spoken to bankers who are in grey suits with carefully manicured nails and so on. The appearance that comes across, first impressions count. So, you know, time it for the audience. Your business leaders, your technologists, your accountants, whatever, try and look like that, but not too rigidly. The backdrop, I saw the backdrop of one video with a refuse truck behind them, emptying bins. You know, remember what's behind you as well as what's in front. And rather than a fixed camera, as I'm using today, it's rather boring, speaking directly, a talking head. But if you move the camera around, say within a laboratory from one experiment to another, it has to be carefully done, but it's more interesting. And continuity. I made industrial films many years ago, and we filmed in one factory one day, and then the next day we went back to finish it. When we edited, there was something wrong. And in between, the guy that we were filming on a machine tool, on the first day, he looked like a workman. On the second day, he was wearing a white shirt, tie, and he'd had his hair cut. So the continuity was all wrong, because in some scenes, he'd had the haircut before he'd actually grown the hair. So continuity, very important. Technical, camera angles. Is it too high? Is it too low? It can make a big difference. A high camera angle looks like you're a burglar. You've been caught on a security camera. Too low and you look too dominant. The lighting, you know, if you're using daylight, which is the best light, beware of the shadows. If you need extra lighting, then it needs to be hired. Should you use music? Some use music in the background, others don't. If you're showing a machine, the working noises are good to have. It shows it really exists, unless you're doing a voiceover, of course, but even then it can be blended. The sound quality, it mustn't sound amateur, it must be clear, especially as you may be speaking in a foreign language. And beware of background noises. Again, another film I saw, there was a couple arguing outside in the street. The windows were open, you could hear them clearly. And then the dog started barking. So beware of background noises. And finally, rehearse, rehearse, rehearse, refine, review. Show the video to outsiders, see what they think. Accept the criticism, don't be too defensive. Take on board what they're saying. Get the reactions and act upon them. And this is the reason you need to have a good recording with good continuity, because you may choose to change a scene or to insert some other thing. If you do that, make sure, for instance, you're wearing the same clothing and so on as you did in the earlier film production. So that's a quick summary of what's involved, and I'm sure you'll agree there's a lot more to it than simply sitting with your iPhone and talking about your project. Others will take advantage of these things. It's a competitive element, and it's a very important one to get your message across. So I suggest you consider it very carefully. And hopefully you'll win the Oscar from the European Commission. I'm not sure that they issue them, but there's always the chance. At least you win the funding, if not the Oscar. So again, any questions, please? We'd be delighted to hear them.
Okay.
It might be useful. We're not too bad on timing, actually. It's amazing somehow we catch up. But could I ask you, Serkan, if you could do a quick resume of the questions? We've had around 40 questions, I think, which is great. We'd like even more, but if you can give us a quick resume, it'd be good.
We have a lot of questions from the attendees. They are all important.
Good.
I can start from the first question and review them quickly, while other audience is typing their questions. So some people were asking about whether we will publish our recording on YouTube. Yes, we have a YouTube channel, and we will publish both live and recorded videos on our YouTube channel.
And the recording's available on our website in a couple of days' time. Yep.
Right. One person was asking about green communication, and you said that information will be delivered to her later.
Yeah.
Actually, European Innovation Council, within or outside EIC Accelerator program, doesn't talk about green communication. They are talking about green innovation, European Union Green Deal. But all applicants, whether they are applying for green innovation call or not, they have to not to do any harm on environment. So they should also highlight the impact of their innovation on the environment, society, and economic in general.
I think it's worth saying on that one, there are other aspects as well that European policy doesn't allow them to fund. So anything to do with tobacco, burning coal, anything that's detrimental to health or society would be not acceptable. So that's right. in their guidelines. Right.
So there are a few questions whether natural persons can apply for EIC Accelerator funding, or is it better or more advantageous to build a company first and then apply for the funding? Actually, the evaluation criteria are the same for both SMEs, startups, mid-caps, or natural persons. What matters is the resources, the team, and the quality of the innovation you bring together as a person or as a team. So you could be a group of individuals working in a university for the last 4 years in your project. So as a spin-off, once your funding is granted, you can build your company before the grant agreement. So you will be fine. But if there are only 3 people working on a project in the last 3 months in a company with 200 employees, their chance would be actually less than yours. So focus on your project rather than company or the type of entity you are applying with. And Green Deal innovations and natural persons. some people were asking whether they need to build a consortium or whether they can apply as a sole company. Accelerator is already closed for consortiums, so you need to apply as a natural person or as a company. So individual sole applications are suitable.
It's worth perhaps explaining natural person. They mean the individual, don't they?
Right, individual.
Yeah, it's an odd description, but it's a way of. Yeah.
So
but it's an individual not acting on behalf of a company.
Yes, absolutely.
Unless it's their own, yeah.
So you have no affiliation with any organization or company. You apply as an individual, but you can still have a team. I mean, just because you are a natural person applicant doesn't mean that you don't have a team or no resource or no background with the project. So you can just pick one of those team members as the official applicant, and you can still work as a team. And you can reflect on your work in the last 5 years, for instance. So can you compare the social benefit and profitability criteria for receiving awards and investments? What are the chances of investment for enterprises that do not have high profitability, but have high social benefits? So this question is very important, actually. It deals with evaluation criteria and eligibility. And I shared basic facts about the program. For instance, Accelerator supports high risk, high impact, high growth, market creating breakthrough innovations. So market deployment and commercialization are must. So you can't just benefit the society, but build an unprofitable business. You have to build a sustainable business. You have to take commercialization and profitability into consideration. Of course, you may not do any harm on environment, even if you don't target a green innovation accelerator call. But profitability and commercialization is more important. So you should prioritize your business first.
Again, the profitability, you're showing profit potential in these bids.
Right.
I mean, it's great if there's some profit now, but that could be negative because it shows that it's already beginning to be a market success. So why do you need EC funding?
Right. It's a very good point. Applicants doesn't need to have to make a profit of their project or innovation currently at the application stage. They don't need to make any revenue because they will be around TRL 5 or 6 maybe. They could also be at TRL 8, but it's a different story.
That moves out of the grant situation.
Right. So gradually you are out of the scope. So there are a lot of social innovation calls and prizes under Horizon Europe. You don't need to be limited to EIC Accelerator program because Accelerator is focusing on commercialization, TRL 9, investment, growth, market creation. So you need to deliver a product or service at the European scale.
Yeah.
So,
incidentally, the green communication, just to respond on that one, it is, as I said, it's about reducing the environmental.
We lost your voice. No sound currently. Philip, can you hear us? I cannot hear you.
Communication systems and so on. It's reducing the environmental impact.
Right. So another question is about if I receive investment equity support from European Innovation Council, who is the investor? The investor is European Investment Fund. So European Innovation Council selects the applicants. During jury interview, you negotiate, and then you will be subject to due diligence by European Investment Fund, and they will take the share of your company if they do invest in your company. And there was a few detailed questions about an academic deep tech spin-off. So Ahu Hanım says, dear Philip, we are an academic deep tech spin-off working on agricultural biotechnology area.
Yeah, we dealt with that one second, I think. So yeah.
We answered them. So there are a lot of interested people in our audience. They have different backgrounds.
Yep.
They are from different parts of Turkey, and they are not all interested in Accelerator, but they have interesting and valuable research projects, innovation projects, and they are not sure if EIC Accelerator is suitable for them. Well, I always suggest
hopefully they know better by now.
Absolutely. These questions came out at the beginning of our presentation. Currently, they have more information about the program, and so we don't need to answer this question anymore. But if they are curious about Horizon Europe opportunities, either funding, tenders, EIC, whatever they are, they need to check funding and tenders portal. They are always updated with different funding listings. They can just use search box. Also, the EIC AI platform discovery tool, one of those three functions, discovery, diagnostic, and design tools. In discovery tool, you can also type certain keywords or whatever the fields you are interested in, and discovery tool will list many options: funding, investment, angel investors, VC companies. So you can pick one of them, EU or non-EU or national fundings. So it's
worth mentioning too that on the Europa website, there are people seeking partners on projects, so they might be able to find a partner that way. But it's also interesting to look at past projects in a technical area, or your area of interest, I should say, to see who was involved, so that you can contact them and say, if you do this sort of project again, we'd be interested. So there are two ways of finding collaborative partners. Two of the ways, I should say, of finding collaborative partners.
Absolutely. So Pınar Hanım asks, is it possible to remove the entered data information from AI-based platform when decided not to proceed to later stages in line with diagnostic recommendations? So if you put your project details in the diagnostic tool, it will recommend and it will come up with certain indicators whether your project is innovative or not, or scientific background and novelty. But it's just for your consideration. I mean, based on the keywords you use in your proposal, it can say your technology isn't high enough, but you can still proceed with your application, because expert evaluators will not take these ratings and indicators into consideration. Expert evaluators are free to evaluate your proposal in the way they want, and based on the evaluation criteria. This AI-based tool is a very important tool, is a very valuable function, but it's only at the beginning stage. So please don't give too much attention to whatever rating it says to you about your innovation. Keep your passion and enthusiasm in your project and keep working on it. But on the other side, if you want to delete or change any information in the diagnostic forms, you can do it. It's possible, and you can create multiple diagnostic tools at the same time, and later on you can pick only one of them to submit to EIC.
Yeah, and you can change your pitch deck as well. If you're invited to present to the judging panel, you can change the pitch deck.
Right. You are allowed to submit another pitch deck in your full application, which is different than your short application, but your video pitch will be remaining in the portal, and full application evaluators will access your short application and their evaluations later on, including the video pitch. So Yasemin Hanım asked if there are any support or guidance or coaching service for short application preparation, and there isn't such service by European Innovation Council or TÜBİTAK, but you can always attend our events, our free of charge trainings and workshops, and ask whatever question you have in your mind whenever you want. You have all our contact information on these slides and on our website. So feel free to contact us any moment you want. But once your short application is accepted, European Innovation Council provides 3-day free of charge business coaching to help you prepare your full proposal. That's a good option to benefit.
There's a question that's come in whilst you've been talking. I don't know whether you've seen it.
Which one?
It's in Turkish, so I can't. It's on the Q&A. There's one outstanding there. So before starting drafting our short application, is there any reference document, any project proposal template that we can utilize? Currently, European Innovation Council hasn't published any short or full application proposal template as a reference document. They don't share such guidance in Horizon Europe Funding and Tenders portal or in the EIC AI platform.
but we are preparing one short proposal template. It will be available soon, and it will help you very much, I believe.
I think ESME give guidance as well, don't they?
Hmm.
EASME, they give, European Association, they
Well,
give some guidance.
Yes.
And the
actually,
NCPs also, I think, have
Right.
guidance. Is that not right, Merve? There's some guidance there?
there is a guide for applicants,
Yeah.
but it's not a replacement for a proposal template.
Oh, no. Sorry, Merve, you were going to say? No?
We don't have a guide
No.
for the application right now.
Yeah, but I think the NCPs have some stuff produced by their own association that gives a bit of outline guidance, and that's available on the web. It's just overall guidance. A lot of people ask for a proposal template. What they'd love to do is take a successful proposal, change the name to their own, and get the funding. Of course, the world isn't like that. Every proposal's different, every project's different, and it's not possible. So any guidance that's given will only be the sort of thing we've been talking about, the main topics, what you should and shouldn't do. And even if you use consultants to write your proposal, you have to be engaged, because if you then go before a judging panel, they'll soon see if you're actually behind the thing or whether it's been done for you by their questioning. So you have to be engaged, as you do with any customer. If you're selling a big project to a customer or a big amount of product to a customer, you have to be engaged, you have to work with them and persuade them to buy from you. It's the same thing, really. Any comments from Grigoris?
Yeah, I think we are okay. I would like to observe what Serkan mentioned earlier, the greatest interest that we gradually see with respect to these programs, which I think it's a very positive signal for our future events, but also a very positive signal for the increased excitement of the Turkish startup ecosystem with respect to EIC Accelerator. So
yeah, I fully agree. We've had a fairly long session, but we still have over 70 people with us. So they should have an award for endurance, I think. But
yeah, very patient.
I suppose now we ought to close. It's 1 o'clock. So any final comments from Serkan or Grigoris?
We just have one final question open here. Is it recommended to use template like business model canvas either in pitch deck or video? It would be very helpful actually to benefit from business model canvas. And it's also actually one of the sections in full application proposals. So you will eventually, sooner or later, will be working on business model canvas. So it's good to show it in your slide deck, video, or
And if you look at our recording, one of our events was based on the EC terminology, and it goes through all of the business model canvas stuff, because of course that changes. Remember, Grigoris had these different stages of business development. So the business model canvas changes as each of the stages are reached. So it's quite a complex thing. Any comments from Merve?
No, thank you. It was your presentations were very fruitful and valuable. I think from now on, if our applicants have any questions or comments, they can contact us anytime they want.
Sure, and our Q&A line stays open for half an hour or so if there are any as well. But TÜBİTAK, the font of all knowledge, so there you are. Okay, so it's down to me to thank my co-presenters and to thank Merve for joining us as well. Very busy lady, so thank you. To thank most of all our participants for staying with us for the last 3 hours. We hope it's been beneficial and useful. We're here to help. Please make use of our website. Please make use of us. And I'll leave it to Kamal to say goodbye.
Thank you very much, Philip. Değerli katılımcılar, bizde vakit ayırıp katıldığınız için ve uzun süre boyunca bizlerle olduğunuz için teşekkür ediyoruz. Sizlere sağlıklı günler diliyoruz. Merve Polat Hanım'a TÜBİTAK'tan bugün bizlere katıldığı için, teşvik gösterdiği için tekrardan teşekkür ediyorum. Serkan Bey'e kesinlikle teşekkür ediyorum. Sorunları yanıtladığı için durmadan. Grigoris'e ve teşekkürlerimizi iletiyoruz. Yine Tuğçe Hanım da bizlerle bugün beraberdi. Bizim proje ekibimizden kendisine de teşekkür ediyorum Anıl Beylerle beraber. Webinarımız 10 dakika kadar daha açık kalacak. Aklınıza gelen takılan herhangi bir soru olursa Q&A kısmından bize iletebilirsiniz. Biraz önce size chat butonu vasıtasıyla iletmiş olduğum proje web sitesi ve etkinlik kaydını YouTube'la entegre şekilde ekliyor olacağız. Orayı da takip edebilirsiniz. Bir sonraki etkinliğimizde görüşmek üzere. Sağlıklı günler diliyoruz.